Welcome to Lorehammer, episode 35, Path of the Eldar.
Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. My name is Eric.
Hey there, hi there, ho there.
This is Jordan coming at you.
Coming at you live from Calgary, Alberta.
Whoa, don't give away our location.
From Cowtown.
Guys, we have stalkers. Now they're going to be flooding
downtown
Calgary.
in Cowtown.
Trying to find you guys.
That's okay. I could use more friends. Those are the best kind because they already know everything about me, so I don't even have to share anything.
You don't even really have to make a friendship
No,
with
exactly.
them. Yes.
And they don't care that I know anything about them, right? Because they just want to know about me. So
Well, the world-renowned Eric,
it's
of course.
the most
of course.
self-absorbed friendship I could ever have is a stalker friend. Anyways, joining us today is Peter.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. Glad to be back.
Glad to be. It's so good to have you, Peter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our dedicated Eldar guy, even though he's never played an Eldar army.
No.
Somehow he's
Eldar
on.
Expert.
Yeah. Somehow.
Well, I disagree. That's how I picture you. No, I according to my research.
That's
The
right.
22 minutes I did this morning.
Yeah. Oh my.
Oh,
Well, today, this is our 35th episode. We just released our first listener lore episode, and that was awesome.
It's pretty enjoyable.
Fun to do. We've got a lot more.
Yeah. We got a lot of good feedback on that, too.
Yeah,
From.
a lot of good.
Whoa.
Some bad.
What?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Who? I don't.
Apparently, I was an asshole.
Oh.
But I mean that I should have
That's-
expected that.
Yeah.
I literally during the recording was like, I'm gonna be an asshole. So I think I actually said those words. So I should not be surprised then when I get that back.
Yeah.
Haters gonna hate.
Yeah.
Oh, potato's gonna potate.
Exactly.
You already know what it is, brother. Okay, but we actually want to say thank you to a brand new patron of ours, Jimmy. Thank you so much for contributing to making this podcast. You should be able to sponsor a specific episode. Look,
This episode is brought to you by Jimmy.
It's not prostitution,
Little Jimmy.
guys. It's not prostitution. But if you give us money, we will do things for you. Episode wise.
And
No,
more.
I'm just kidding. But thank you, Jimmy, so much for contributing.
Yes, yes.
Anytime people contribute, it's awesome for us. So it really helps us make sure we want to keep this going because it shows you guys care and we don't have to sink our own money into it anymore. So
Yeah.
that's
That
nice.
$50 buy-in to
It's
start
tough.
podcasting was brutal.
It was
Took
not good.
months to coax my wife into letting me spend $50.
I only ever get nickels and dimes, so it took me a while to save for this whole thing. But before we even get into the meat of the episode, Mark just had something he wanted to share.
I got two things.
Okay.
So, Eric's birthday was last weekend, and I put on Facebook like,
Oh, hey, isn't your birthday today?
yeah, we'll get to that, but we're doing chronological order.
Yeah, it's Mark's birthday. Happy birthday, Mark.
Happy birthday,
We
Mark.
did it, everyone. But yours was last weekend.
Okay.
I posted on Lorehammer like send us your favorite Eric quotes. So I'm just gonna read a couple
Better
of.
get ready.
Wait, what date is your birthday?
It was the 27th
Oh, we're all I'm on the 28th. Like we're
of
almost
September.
October.
Oh,
People are gonna
October.
think we're trying to milk this birthday thing or something. It seems like they're having a birthday every weekend.
That's how we have to get our guests. Our guests have to have a birthday within a week of us recording.
But I'm gonna read a couple of my favorite ones that were sent in. So these are quotes word for word by Eric. This show is ruining our friendship. I can't even go to your house anymore.
I actually really liked that one.
Another good one is, that's not how this works, Mark.
It's probably talking about a nuclear bomb.
No, because I don't know how nuclear bombs work. Which brings me to the next one, and the last one I'll read is, I can build a nuclear bomb. It's not that hard.
Guys, it's not. It's not that hard.
So there are some enjoyable ones. Check out our Lorehammer page on Facebook. We actually just got a social media manager guy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Legit.
You'll notice in the past like 3-4 days, the quality of posts has absolutely skyrocketed.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Colin. Colin's been on the podcast a couple times. But yeah, so check us out on Facebook if you want.
You want to interact with us?
Yeah.
That's where we ask questions. It's where you guys can ask us
We know for
questions.
sure Colin won't post anything offensive that'll get us banned.
It's true.
Oh, 100%.
Very
He's way too
child
nice of
friendly,
a guy.
yes.
Way too nice of a guy.
Yeah.
Whereas if any of us were doing it, all bets are
No,
off.
we're threatening people by building nuclear bombs.
You
most of the
always
time.
run the risk when it's one of us. That's showbiz. That's politics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is your birthday, I guess, today. So this is
Yeah.
coming out on Wednesday. So anyone who hears this, you're 4 days late.
Yeah.
Just so
Screw
you
you
guys know.
guys. So my wife bought me this Lorehammer hoodie for my birthday.
Oh, really?
Isn't this like
Nice.
the third one you own?
No, this is the first hoodie.
Oh, that was
I only
that was
own
last
one
year.
T-shirt and one hoodie.
That was
actually-
last year.
I actually like it as a hoodie.
Yeah, it's nice. Isn't
That's
it?
pretty sweet.
But
A
so,
hoodie
like,
is called a bunny. What does the other people call it?
A bunny hug?
A bunny,
Bunny
hug.
hug,
That's
yeah.
Some
right.
people do.
Yeah. It's just a sweater with a hood.
yeah,
So it's a hoodie. But whatever.
a swooty. A sweater hood.
Oh,
Sweater
okay,
hoodie.
a sweater hoodie. Okay,
Yeah, a
anyways,
sweaty.
keep saying your wife bought you that.
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh, sweet. It's like a double gift because, you got me the hoodie and then I made $10 on the hoodie. And she's like, Mark, that's not how it works. I'm like, yeah, no, it is. I made $10 when you spent that money on this hoodie. So it was a double gift.
Well, hold on. Lorehammer made that.
No, I've already spent it.
Oh.
It's gone.
Oh. Sad.
Yeah. And the last thing we'll do before we get into the episode is we're going to give you a little teaser about the quality of the listener lore that we've been getting. So just in case some people don't listen to the listener lore because it's not full episodes or whatever people are into, I'm going to play one right now that somebody sent in to us. This is done by Matt.
Lorehammer Adventures. In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there is only war. But it doesn't mean we can't have fun. One grim story of such fun began with a young rogue trader by the name of Mark. Young, fun, and full of the spirit of the Emperor, he was ready to set off for his first real adventure. And the time hadn't come soon enough, as he was fed up of his duties fixing the lanterns in the Imperial Palace with his tech priest pal, J0RDN. But we'll call him Jordan. Oh boy, I can't wait to start my great quest collecting information about our wonderful Emperor-blessed galaxy, Mark cried. Jordan looked at him dryly. Dry because he didn't have eyeballs. He had some freaky mechanicum glasses instead. Mark, that is fucking stupid. How will you be able to read all of the Xenos information? Or the regular information? Mark bounded with glee. Of course! Jordan, my friend, you will be coming along with me as my personal translator. Oh, shit, said Jordan. And so they left off. But before they left Terra, they would have to find Eric, Mark's trusty bodyguard. He was a member of the Tempestus Scions, and truly did they dick the enemies of the Emperor. He was a good man to have around in a crisis. Eric, my chum and pal, are you ready for a journey of fun and excitement? Exclaimed Mark. For fuck's sake, Mark. This is not going to be fun. The galaxy is a treacherous place, full of demons, heretics, and worst of all, the greater good. What's the greater good? Said Mark. It sounds okay. It's bullshit. Mark, it is a lie. Have you not heard about the pot truths? Shouted Eric. Whoa. Okay. Well, we'll be careful to avoid anything even slightly good, said Mark. Okay. Eric submitted. He checked Mark and Jordan over. Where are your weapons? I am not programmed for that, began Jordan. Eric grabbed a mechandendrite hanging from Jordan's robe. What about this? He said angrily. That is my genitalia. Ew, said Eric. Why is it covered in metal? It's robotic. Eric glared at the adept of the mechanicum, and then to the rogue trader. What about you? Where is your gun? Guns are icky, said Mark with disgust. What? Icky, repeated Mark. You can't be serious. You will not survive in this universe if you do not use guns. What about when you run into an orc or a necron? We will gather information through our friendship. We can beat any enemy, cried Mark. Emperor's dusty shitballs, said Eric. We are all going to die. End of chapter 1.
That's pretty good.
Oh, there's a lot of funny things in there.
Slow clap.
So there's the quality of the listener lore. They're pretty good.
It's nice that he kind of has the Irish accent going for
That's
him.
right.
Too.
It's legit.
Yeah.
Audiobook quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one to hear.
Yeah, so if you guys want to even, when you send us your lore, send us it through, maybe email is the best way to send it to us, and it doesn't get lost in our Facebook feed or anything. And if you want to send us like an audio clip, we will play it. Just, keep things relatively brief. Don't go over.
Yeah, this isn't an audiobook. Let's
No,
make that clear.
like exactly. Like if you're gonna send us half hour of audio, we're not gonna play it. 29 minutes, sure, we'll play it, but
Yeah, 29:45. That's our cutoff.
yeah. But no, like be reasonable, realistic.
Both.
I don't know.
Be reasonable and realistic.
Sure.
Anyways,
Yeah.
we are still doing that. So send us your lore. We'll pick it apart. We'll say the things we don't like. We'll say the things that we never did like, and then we'll keep on keeping on.
This will not be fun.
I'm not your king. This will not be over quickly, and you will not enjoy it.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just watched 300 again, so
So now we're just gonna have this episode filled with those quotes.
hopefully.
Good thing it's not a very dialogue heavy movie. So there's really only a couple quotes you could do.
It's surprising to hear how historically accurate that movie is. Don't give me that look, Peter. Don't give me that look. There are very large portions of that movie that are supposed to have happened, which is really cool.
Isn't like what's it called? The Battle of
Thermopylae.
Thermopylae. Isn't that like highly exaggerated by the people who actually wrote it?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so first of all, the guy who there's only 2 accounts of this whole thing written.
Right. Yeah.
And obviously there's going to be a Greek bias on it because the Greeks were biased about everything that they did.
Yeah.
But when you try and break it down and you're like, okay, this is a more realistic representation of the population and everything, it's still a pretty accurate historical movie. And you can give me that look all you want, Peter, but it's really cool. It's really cool, and there's
Being cool does not make it historically accurate.
There's
Those
lines-
two things should not be in the same sentence.
That's right.
There's lines in it that are actual documented lines as being said by Spartans. The numbers are closer than you would think.
No.
300 Spartans and then
10,000 of the other guys.
false. Not even remotely close to that.
The Persians or whatever. Was it
No, of Thracian allies.
Yeah, but
Thracian.
it wasn't 10,000. It was more 1,000.
Oh, okay.
Right? And then they left. So it was really just the Spartans there at the end.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to go back, watch it. Just to refresh my history.
Excellent. Good.
Since clearly,
Good. It's
What
it's 100% accurate.
Yeah.
If I had to say that,
Interesting.
That's my understanding of Spartan history. I feel like Christian would agree.
You know what movie you should watch? Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter.
You know what?
It's gonna take
That's how I learned about slave emancipation. It's the reason he wanted to free the slaves is because the vampires were eating them. I'm really glad that I'm learning all this history.
And you're in post-secondary education, right?
Barely.
You're supposed to be the intelligent people.
Keyword supposed to be.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh no, I wanted to make a joke about going to community college, but maybe some people actually go to community college.
You can make a joke.
All right. Oh no, Mark, I don't go to real university. I go to community college, so you can expect that level of education.
Now make a racist joke.
And a homophobic one. Actually.
Well,
Well,
absolutely.
it's been great being here with you guys.
I thought we were talking about
Thanks.
Warhammer.
Why are we
I think
getting
I'm
shut
going to be
down?
leaving early for this episode. Thank you.
Let's talk about Eldar. More specifically, let's talk about the path of the Eldar. You need to do sensitivity training. That's what we need to do. We're gonna make a Lorehammer sensitivity training book.
Well, I've learned to read since the last time through the Lorehammer's generous donations
course.
of teaching me.
Yes,
So
reading with
now,
phonics.
Next chunk of Patreon money will go to sensitivity training for
Of
me.
course, we'll make you a man yet, Mark.
Perfect.
Or not. We don't
Whatever. Eldar.
know. Eldar. Right, Peter?
Yes, Eldar. I am an expert on Eldar.
What's their official name? Like their high gothic-y type name, or what
Yeah.
they call
What do they call
themselves?
themselves?
Eldathari.
I mean, it's not bad. Maybe there's an Eldar out there who calls himself an Eldathari. But probably not.
No, the Eldari. I
Or
would.
the Asuriani.
Sure.
Yeah, either of those would work.
Sure. Uh-oh. My mother's calling me. What do I do? In this situation, do we take a phone call from my mother? No. No, she's deeply offended me.
That's right.
We had my brother on. We'll get to the Eldar eventually.
Yes.
One more story.
One more story.
One
'Cause
more
this is a
story
good one.
of deep betrayal and hurt.
You had a brother on?
I
Yeah,
did.
he had Brant on the Ordo Malleus episode.
With
Oh
the
my
Grey
goodness.
Knights. So,
I need to stop everything and go and listen to that right now.
but so my mom listened to that one just because it's like both my boys are on, and then she called me and we're talking, and then at some point she's like, I'm so impressed by Brant. Like he was so witty on the podcast, and like he had all these he just had to think on the spot.
These good one-liners.
Yeah, it's like, Mom, what about me?
I've been doing this podcast for a year. But when Mark was telling me that story, you should have seen the pain in his
tears.
eyes. Like, it wasn't even like a joke, like, haha, Eric, listen to what my mom said. It was like, Eric, I'm offended
Deeply hurt.
at what my mom said.
There's a
to
reason
me
why I have to act so outlandish all the time. It's
to get her attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Mommy issues, okay.
Yeah. And daddy issues too.
Well, who doesn't have a good daddy issue? You know what I mean?
Just really any social relationship has been an issue in my life.
That's why you do better in the garage. Anyways,
Path of the Eldar.
Path of the Eldar. What were we saying? What were we talking about? We're talking about the path.
We haven't
Just
started.
really an introduction to it. We got nowhere.
Oh, okay, great. So let's start by maybe you didn't even know that there was such a thing called the Path of the Eldar. Maybe you just thought the Eldar were willy-nilly about everything they did, even though they created Slaanesh. But ever since then, the Eldar life has completely changed, and hopefully for the better,
Oh, definitely.
we would say.
Yes.
Well, if you like restrictions,
Yes.
Well, they haven't fallen a second time.
give it time.
So
it's only been 10,000
Obviously,
years.
it's been better.
It's only been 10,000 years.
So what? So
And they had millions.
how long do we have to wait before we can say
they-
yes? This is a better.
They had
lifestyle.
millions from the time they like earned the galactical dominance. Is that what it would be?
Sure.
Galactical. Yeah, words.
I am galactical.
They had millions of years from the time they got galactic dominance to the time they created Slaanesh, and it's only been 10,000 years. So we're in like the
Oh
first.
shit! And they've almost created the Eldar God of Unid.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's all good.
it's all good.
So
This time they know what they're doing.
Right. They already had their trial run of creating
Right.
a god. They're gonna do it right this time.
That's right.
Okay, so the path of the Eldar. The path is basically it's all Eldar craft world life.
yeah.
It defines who you are. You cannot be on the path and be a productive and contributing member of Eldar society on a craft world. Like, specifically today, we are going to talk about craft world Eldar. We will mention Exodites and Drukhari a little bit, but the main thing is all craft world today. To live without the path invites destruction from Slaanesh.
Yeah.
So really, it's a way that the Eldar are protecting themselves and preserving their way of life and their culture from this chaos god that only wishes to see their destruction by consuming their souls.
Let's just jump back couple thousand years and just kind of refresh people on Slaanesh and how Slaanesh was born.
In the beginning of the fall.
Yeah. So basically, the Eldar had a galactic spanning empire, and they started to
Mark,
galactical spanning empire. Do we need to get you some reading lessons now? Have we been focusing too much money on me?
Mark, I do the learn real good.
But yeah, so they had a galactical spanning empire. And they eventually didn't have to do anything. They had robots to take care of all their economy.
They were given to the pleasures of life.
Exactly. So they could just follow the whims of their heart. And as we know, like, the Eldar are highly psychic creatures, so everything that they do affects the warp. So if you got an entire race of people just doing hedonist acts, eventually, their warp energies, their emotions start to fill the warp.
Coalesce.
And the birth of Slaanesh happened. The god of pleasure, the god of excess would be the big thing. And when Slaanesh was born, she, like, her biggest thing is feeding on Eldar souls. When the Eldar die, Slaanesh would devour them.
So Slaanesh was actually born in, like, the heart of the Crone Worlds, where, like, the Eldar lived.
Yeah.
And then for 100 light years around where she was born, she had ripped the soul from every Eldar and consumed it.
Yeah.
And that's what actually created the Maelstrom.
Yeah. Well, the Eye of Terror.
Sorry, what's the Maelstrom?
The one in the center. The warp storm in the center.
Yes, sorry.
Which is a different horrible act.
Of course. Of course.
But, yeah, so after the fall of the Eldar, after Slaanesh was born, the craft world Eldar, the ones that kind of escaped, came up with, like, the path of the Eldar. Like, they basically made this system to keep themselves from going too wild, too crazy. And
it was a way to place restrictions on their ability to interact with the world.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of why they came up with this system. But so each Eldar, they live on the path, and it restricts their life, and But
it still allows them to experience the universe.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So the purpose of this is that they're focusing on a specific thing while they go about their lives.
Yeah.
So they're not getting an overload.
Yeah. There are many different paths that an Eldar will walk along. Like, some will be like the path of the warrior, some will be the path of the seer, and we'll show you some of them. But, like, you could really, even if you're making your own lore, you could come up with the path of whatever you want, really.
Oh, probably. Most likely. Okay.
Why would you not be able to?
Well, probably because the thing is, there's paths and then there's, like, sub paths.
Yeah.
So probably what you would do is you'd make a sub path and you'd fit it into a major path that's already there.
Yeah.
Most likely, unless your idea was extremely radical, in which, like, if it was different enough from something else, then of course you could make a major one.
Yeah, but they cover all the major bases, so it would have to be something pretty crazy. But
Well, they've had time. They've kind of figured this out a little bit.
So something interesting to note is that no Exodites or Drukhari follow a path. Now, the Drukhari one is a little up for debate that we'll go about later, but 100% Exodites do not follow a path.
Yeah.
And the Drukhari truly believe that they do not follow a path.
And the Exodites are the Eldar who left before the fall.
yeah.
Yes.
They got the head start. They saw the way the culture was going, weren't really happy with it.
Yeah.
So they took off before all of this happened.
Yeah.
So they kind of had the head start on gaining some self-control
Yes.
that the other Eldar seemingly now have this, like, cultural system to basically teach them, like, self-control, or, like, to have this rigid system to help them kind of not go into excess. The Exodites had kind of already been able to figure some of this out, and they were the ones who left.
Yeah.
Which would be the reason why they're not following.
Of course, because
a
the path was created after the Exodites had left.
Yeah.
And they don't need it.
Yeah.
Right. Because they've got it figured out a little bit more than their cousins.
Yeah. And then one thing to consider too is like when the Path of the Eldar was created, it was by the same people who caused the fall of the Eldar. Like, and that's why they're not just like trying to like teach their children like, oh yeah, just don't go crazy. They were going crazy, so they had to limit themselves just as much as their children. Like that's why that system is there too, because they were the ones who created the fall in the first place.
Yeah. Another reason that Eldar would follow the path is they can even experience something that was mentioned as a sensory overload. And if they experience too much at one time and they open themselves enough, too much to it, they can actually die.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Which is pretty interesting to think about. If an Eldar like just chooses to open their mind to fully experience everything around them, they can just shut down and burn up, really. So
yeah, essentially there's something broken within them, and they're trying to find like a rigid system to allow them to not go to this excess, which they seem to be leaning towards naturally.
Yeah.
it's
given enough time.
when you can do everything, it's tough to not do everything.
Yeah. Well, it's like what people say, like, oh, if you could live forever, like,
right,
what would you do? And like, would you eventually get bored? And people are like, yeah. So then you always have to take it to that next step further, because when you're 10,000 years old,
I'd probably try and rule humanity.
really,
Oh,
you
God.
either die a hero,
Or you live, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
worst 300 quote ever.
Shut up. That's from Batman, and you know it.
Batman 300.
300 Batman. Nope, sorry, Batmen.
Batman. Oh, your lessons are paying off, Mark.
Man is singular, men is plural.
Yes. Women don't exist.
I've yet to get to that topic yet.
Oh, we're
Mark, it was in
we're-
the same class.
We're dipping into the sexist jokes now.
Okay, so now that we know why the path was created and why Eldar will follow it, how does it work, Mark?
Well, each path is focused on like a specific thing. So like we said, it limits you to one thing and it allows you to focus on one thing. So you will choose a certain path to follow, and you pour all of your being into that one path. And when you're on this,
Is it always like a choice that you have to make?
yeah, like you can choose.
But sometimes you are pulled in another path.
Yeah, like naturally, everyone has their own personality traits. So like some people naturally go towards rotisserie chicken, and other
Yep.
people go towards the
Like
path of the
artisanship?
yeah, artisanship. Yeah, and some people feel more violent, so they go towards the path of the warrior. But ultimately, you can choose, and ultimately, it would be better for you if you choose something that isn't like necessarily what you want. Like it's about
a lot of that depends, I think.
Sure.
In like the books that you're reading, if let's say you have an Eldar who for some reason is feeling uncontrollably joyous and wants to just create and create and create.
Yeah.
So it's actually a good thing for them to go on the path of the artisan
Sure.
in order to control that
some
desire.
structure.
Yes, to be able to say like, okay, this is how I feel about something. Let me do this with some tutelage and some
Yeah.
guidance so as to not go absolutely crazy with my desire to create.
yeah, absolutely.
So there's also there's part of it where you need to learn where you have your talents lie that way, so you want to experience it. Sometimes you want to hide from something, so you choose a path that's very opposite of it.
Yeah.
But also sometimes you need this guidance, or else you will just die.
yeah.
Because if you were in the path of like the path of the healer, and you just had an overwhelming desire to create and create and create, and you just did it by yourself, there's just no focus and guidance on this creativity that you have.
Yeah.
And you would just give yourself over to this excessiveness.
Yeah. So yeah, you can basically choose any path you want. It might fall into that category. It might fall into another one. It's all very personal. Like
Very personal.
Everything with the Eldar is very inward looking and stuff.
Yeah, it's self-directed, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like they're sitting down with like a guidance counselor who is saying like, you know what, you really need to do this, or somebody
Yeah.
that's in charge of them saying like, no, hey, I know you don't want to do this, but I'm putting you on the path.
Part
Or
of
does
that
that happen sometimes?
It definitely does happen too. More often than not in the path of the seer
Sure.
or the path of the warrior.
Which would be a little bit farther along?
Not necessarily.
Would that still be like your first path? I guess for some, if you're
your
really
psychic,
giving to it.
if your psychic ability gets to the point of where you are now a danger to others, right? Like, because all Eldar are psychic, but that doesn't mean all of them are throwing lightning bolts.
Sure.
Right? But if you get to the point of where your psychic ability is just opening up and you're opening up, you can be forced to go down this path until you at least learn to control it. Same with your rage. If you're just in an uncontrollable rage, most likely you're going to join the path of the warrior by yourself, but you
Right.
also might be forced into it just so you can learn to control that rage, and then you can go back to doing whatever you want. So there are instances of Eldar who are forced upon a path, but I think those are pretty few and far between.
Yeah. And what's crazy about going on a path too is like you become a part of that path. Like you will shed kind of like previous aspects of yourself and really take on the aspects of that path that you're on. So
Yeah, it's not just like a physical choice of I'm now going to start creating
Yeah.
things. It's also a mental and psychological choice where previously I was a healer and I was very compassionate
Yeah.
towards other people and subservient, but now I'm actually kind of leaving those things. I'm putting those emotions aside to fully absorb the idea of a creator.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's very interesting actually that they do it like that.
Yeah, because it seems like it doesn't really build as much one on top of the other.
No, it's not
Because
like
it's-
step 1 you become a
Right.
path warrior. Step 2 then you're a healer. No, it's like
Or you're not like a multi-class
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of a thing where
So-
now I'm a sweet healer and a great warrior.
There is
Yeah.
like a balance to be held there because you don't lose the experiences that you had
Right.
while you were in that other path, but I think their weight upon you is lessened.
It seems
Yeah.
even like some of your like memories of things are affected when you move from a path.
Definitely Path of the Warrior. But they're like when I'm reading this, like other paths, you can distinctly remember, and you can even remember your thought process at the time.
Okay.
It doesn't hold any weight to you now because you have a completely different thought process.
Right.
no, I like that idea of it's not like we just started playing Pathfinder and it's not like dual classing.
Right.
It's definitely not like that
Correct,
at all.
yeah.
Like even if you've done 8 paths, you're not now.
It's whatever you're doing now.
Exactly.
It
It's
is
very
the focus. It's the
Yeah.
most important, and your time, energy, thoughts are all there. You might have some previous experiences or things, but they don't affect you like everything you're doing right now.
Yeah. When the Eldar changes path, they don't lose their experience. Rather, their understanding of themselves and the universe grows and expands as they seek to fully embrace and examine every emotion they experience.
So really, the whole purpose of the paths is an Eldar's attempt to experience the entire universe with structure.
Yeah.
With a way that they can focus on one aspect at a time so they don't get overloaded, so they don't give in to their desire for more.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose is just to learn everything and be able to master and control every aspect of yourself.
Yeah. So there does come a point, though, when the Eldar will feel that they're no longer supposed to be on a path, and then they can just change the path when they want to.
There's no need to master a path completely.
You don't have to. Exactly. And it might almost even be, not frowned upon, but, dangerous to try to completely master a path. Because...
You walk that tightrope,
Yeah.
right? You walk that tightrope of being lost or completely mastering your craft.
Yeah, because there is such a thing that the Eldar call being lost on a path, where it's like you've gone so deep into this path that you literally cannot leave it now. Like this,
You
is
are
now.
consumed by it.
So it would almost be dangerous to try to master something, because then you risk that thing of being lost on the path and never being able to experience another path.
Definitely a danger.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of a
Counterintuitive.
weird thought to think about. Yeah, because you think like, well, this is kind of what I enjoy doing. This is what I do well. I just want to kind of stay here. But then to have that be a dangerous kind of thing,
Yeah.
to be really, I'm really good at this. I really like doing this.
All Eldar walk that danger.
Yeah.
Right?
The easiest way to look at it is like the path of the warrior. The emotions of being on the path of the warrior is like violence, like aggression, like they're very
Anger.
Sure.
So if you get lost on that path, if you spend too much time on it, like that's definitely going to be bad for you.
it's less than spending too much time on it, from what I saw, and more.
Oh, yeah, it's not like-
giving in to.
Yeah, it's not like
it's letting the
if
anger and
you're-
rage control you.
Yeah.
Sure.
If you're there for 10 years, it doesn't matter. You could be there for 1,000 years and not be
Yes.
lost on the path.
It's all about how much you choose to let those emotions control you, as opposed to you controlling those emotions.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's
But obviously, the more time you spend on the path, the higher risk there is of that happening.
Sure, and some of those paths are going to be more like there's more of a chance of getting sucked in or getting lost on some of these paths than on others.
Yeah,
Of
like-
course, the path
assume.
of the artisan.
Right.
I love creating so much.
I'm just lost in making this sculpture. Can't think about anything else.
But even
Path of service. I just love doing janitorial work.
the interesting thing is that even though these Eldar are considered lost upon the path, and there's kind of a pity associated with that, they still have like a place of importance
Yeah.
within Eldar society,
Oh, absolutely.
because these are the ones who will guide you on the path. So it's like your teacher is completely lost upon the path and can never leave it, but they are going to show you how
'Cause
to
they're the
not get
expert.
lost. Yes.
Yeah, they're like the best at it because they've been just stuck doing it forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is weird that it's like kind of frowned upon,
Like
or
you
looked
don't
down on.
You don't want to do what they did, but you want to learn from them.
And their whole job, yeah, is effectively to be like, don't do what I did.
Yeah.
But I'm going to teach you because I'm stuck here in this dead end job that I can never leave.
Changing the lanterns in the Imperial Palace.
don't
tech
don't
piece
become
phone.
like me, kid.
So here's the question. So if you get lost on the path, are you always lost on the path? Because what if you're lost on the path and then you change paths, but you are no longer lost on the path. But then were you ever lost on the path to begin with?
Well, that if you have the ability to change a path, you are never
Then you
lost.
weren't lost at all.
Exactly.
Well, so then what? Someone says they're...
Yeah, what if somebody's like...
Someone convinces you that you're lost on the
Right?
path?
But then-
Oh my gosh, shut her
and
out,
like
guys.
10,000 years go by, but then eventually you change and you're like, you know what? I wasn't actually lost on the path.
I don't know. I think there is that
Like
that line, and you've crossed it, and there's no
but what
turning
if
back.
you-
Yeah, like,
there's-
I wonder what
it's
that
just
visible-
impossible for you. There is that point. Like,
I wonder like if other Eldar could like sense it, like, oh yeah, you have reached that point. Like I wonder how they actually know one is lost on the path. Like for sure, you know? Because like I said, you could be on the path for 10,000 years and everyone thinks you're lost, but you're like, I just really like it, and then you instantly change. You were never lost on the path.
There are physical signs in some paths that
are
you are
there?
lost.
Oh, okay.
Especially warrior and seer.
The seer, yeah.
The seer
okay.
one definitely, like, you are like, your mind is like trapped, really, like
Yeah.
in like a constant psychic like phase, and you're always trying to look at the web, and you go too deep, and so the seer one is
Yeah,
kind
and,
of a
like-
little easier.
even the dreamer is another one that
Yes.
you can get lost on, right? Where you're
The
just,
dreamer
like-
isn't hard to get lost on at all.
Yeah, you're just lazy and in bed and sleeping and dreaming, and then you just
Path I would
don't-
take.
No, Mom, I'm on the path. Leave me alone.
You haven't got out of bed in 6 weeks.
But yeah, the dreamer is a good example, because you give up on your physical body, and you only exist within the dream, and your physical body eventually like dies, and there are people who literally just watch you to make sure that doesn't happen.
Spoiler alert, you just ruined that whole...
We can go deeper into the dream, don't worry.
Oh well.
I think we kind of said all there is to know about paths. Like,
Well,
There
there's
are-
one more thing about how paths work, and it's just that each path has subpaths.
Yeah, like-
so within the path of the artisan, there's the path of the sculptor and path of the painter.
Yeah.
And you could probably say path of the cook, or whatever it is that you put creativity in and joy and your, I don't know, whatever. I can't remember how I described it when we were chatting about it. But whatever it is that you create with in this path would fall under the path of the artisan.
Whatever your specialty is.
yeah.
Yeah, but you also
Within
could
that.
just choose to master a completely different aspect of the path of the artisan.
Yeah.
Like if you're a master painter, but for some reason there's an itch in you to learn how to
Sure.
create poems. Now you're creating poems as path of the artisan.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
anything else about paths?
No.
Okay.
We did it.
And That's it. Thanks for listening, guys. That's been our episode.
I'm gonna tell you guys 50 minutes of cock jokes now just to fill out the rest of the episode.
But let's
Chicken
get
jokes,
into...
eh?
Huh?
Chicken jokes, in case anyone thought I was being a pervert. I just thought I'd clarify.
Like a rooster?
Yes,
is
cock
Mark.
roosters.
Like poultry?
Yes.
He's a little bit of
Yes.
a pervert. Let's talk about some of the different paths that are listed just on the wiki and on the lexicanum. So the first one we're going to talk about is the path of awakening. This path is all about your surroundings and how you kind of perceive the reality that you're in. It's the ability to see the insignificant or impossible things that a regular Eldar who isn't on this path just would not see.
So this is like when the very first Spider-Man movie, like with Tobey Maguire, you know, when he gets bit and then he looks at his arms and he sees like his fingers like he sees all the quills. He can see everything in super detail now. Like he's been awakened.
This is the woke path.
The
Most socially conscious path.
Sick. Really? I'm almost thinking more like Matrix. Like
That could be it too.
like you actually perceive what it like you know how Neo, like when Neo starts seeing everything in like numbers
After he dies.
yeah like he's now on the path of awakening.
Well, that's definitely
He
part
can
of
now
what it
see
is.
the wind.
Like,
Oh, so this is just the high path. This is
you
just
constantly do Eldar drugs. to stay
Yeah,
on this
essentially.
path.
You're just like, whoa, man, the universe, it's beautiful.
But honestly, that's what it is. The whole purpose of the path is to discover the natural beauty of the universe, and it's staying grounded within reality and perceiving everything about this reality.
Definitely sounds like DMT. Yeah.
This path is opposite the path of the dreamer, specifically because the dreamer focuses on unreality, in reality, non-reality.
I love the words you're coming up with today.
What's the real word?
Galactical.
What's the real word? What's the opposite of reality?
I don't know.
Whoa, that's a deep question. We're taking it in a deep. Wow, maybe
Existential?
you're on the path of awakening.
Oh my goodness, guys, stay woke. Stay with me. No, the dreamer focuses purely on that which doesn't exist in real, because they're dreaming. So the awakened and the dreamer, I mean, just in their names you can see the dichotomy there, but they are completely separate. And a lot of times the path of the awakening is a precursor to the path of the artisan.
Yeah.
So in order to create something that like embodies your feelings, you have to be able to understand.
You appreciate the beauty,
Of
and then
course.
it inspires you to then create
Yeah,
beauty.
and you have a complete real understanding of materials and mediums and how those would join together to create the feeling you're trying to inspire. So, all right, let's.
So awakening it's more observational. It's actually seeing what's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's paying attention to the little details, while the dreaming is more imaginative and going off into, because there is a little bit of that kind of what could be, it seems, into the like awakening. Would you say like for like see the insignificant or impossible things that regular Eldar wouldn't? So like that, seeing the impossible, like is there a little bit of like speculative part of the awakening that, or is that, is it more just like observing the natural world around us and like watching people and being
I think
conscious of
part
the
of-
little details?
I think part of that seeing the impossible is more watching the Eldar interact with other things. So when I look at you drink that ice cap, for instance, you would just be like, I'm thirsty. But as on the path of the awakening, I can see like, what was your decision that led to you wanting this specific ice cap at this specific time? And, you know, you chose to wear a red hat today and you just like the hat, but as an awakened member, I can see the decisions that have led you to this point. That's kind of more
like,
what I saw.
Yeah, like scientific. So like I see like these facts and then I assemble them
Yeah.
together and I have like a hypothesis about it. And
Yeah,
so
that's
then I
more
can
of how
see-
I witnessed their
It's more of a
viewing
scientific kind of process than like a dreaming kind of.
Yes.
It's all based in what you're seeing and taking in.
I think the awakened to me was all understanding the why of something. why does the ship work like this? Why
It's
do
Sherlock
we do
Holmes,
this?
right? Where he's like, "Oh, I can see you came from Africa because of the mud on your boots," and and he like lists off all these different like deductions or inductions that he's made.
I can almost even see it too as a different way of seeing the impossible. Like, he's so grounded in reality. Like, so he's about to jump over a cliff. The cliff's 10 feet. He knows he can only jump 8 feet. Like, he knows it's impossible. Like, he knows what gravity is, and like, he knows exactly what everything is capable. Like, he knows what is possible and what is impossible to do in this reality.
Do you think he can manipulate it?
No.
Oh,
He's just able to say,
he
"We
has
can't
the
do this.
Yeah, like,
This is what
yeah,
we can do,
like-
and this is what we cannot do."
Yeah, we
and I
cannot
know
go
it.
faster than the speed of light.
So
like, he knows.
it's like a statistical analysis,
Sure.
right? He's like, if you take that shot, like, I understand the possibilities and the impossibilities of what you can and cannot hit. Based
Not
on my,
so much
based
that,
on my
like,
understanding
to me,
of your
it's more
skill
like-
and your gun.
No, to me, well, yeah, sure, that's one way to look at it. But I look at it more like he looks at actually what is the physical, or like the limitations of the actual universe. Like, what is actually possible. Like, you cannot throw a ball into orbit. Like, doesn't matter how many times you try, it
How
is an
hard-
impossibility.
How hard would it be for an Eldar, who is an inherently psychic being, to ground themselves completely in reality?
Right? Like, to me, it would
That
be
would be
essential to
very
know
difficult.
like what is actually possible and impossible. in the
Yeah,
universe.
everything about an Eldar revolves around a psychic being. Like, they know nothing other than their connection to the, like, they've never not been connected to the warp and magic. But
Yeah.
to go on the path that completely focuses on reality would be
Exactly.
like denying a part of yourself.
Yeah.
Looking past part of yourself.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Which is
looking
what-
without that part of yourself, because you'd have to completely remove the lens. Because Mark's
is what
completely right. In reality, like, let's say Eldar can only jump 8 feet, but with the power of the warp, maybe they
Eldar
can
now can jump 20 feet.
exactly. But when
Well,
you
you need
remove,
to take that into consideration.
but it's
though.
not
Like,
part of
why
reality.
Are you separating?
because anything is possible with the warp. That's not real.
Yeah.
What's
And-
real is what you
But
can.
if it's possible, then it's because it's just being aware of like the
But it-
facts, the science.
but the warp is not connected to reality.
Because the warp is an
The
ocean.
immaterium is not connected to reality in the sense where you can conveniently and constantly predict its way.
And
it's
when you use
impossible to say what is impossible with the warp.
Yeah. Because it's so unpredictable. But I kind of interpret it that way. Not that that's the right way. That's just how
It's
I
an
interpret
interesting way to do it, but it just going on
Because-
this chat has
yeah.
made the path of the awakening so much more difficult than I thought it originally
Yeah.
was.
Because we know too, like you were saying, like
you're getting lost. Come back, get off the
No,
path.
I like it here.
No,
It's
you
comfortable.
can't stay.
but you were saying, like, why would you cut off like that warp part of yourself? The paths are all about cutting off different portions of themselves.
Sure,
So
that's self-control.
yeah, exactly.
Denial of a
Limiting portions of yourself to better focus
Exactly.
on other. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah,
that
so-
that fits well then, because you're removing or limiting this psychic portion of yourself to better be able to walk this path.
Another thing, while you're on some paths, you cannot have thoughts that are opposed to it. Like there are some paths that you're on, like you're on the path of the warrior, you do not have compassion while you're on the path of the warrior.
Sure, but if you started to have feelings of compassion, that would just be you're starting to get pulled off
the path of the warrior is an interesting one because you're given something different than other paths. The path of the warrior and the path of the seer are a little more different than regular ones because you don't really have choice in those ones. Like, you're very limited compared to the other paths.
Yeah,
just because of some spiritual thing that comes over the Eldar.
We'll talk about it a little later more with the path of the warrior. But
Of course, but I just want to.
I
There
know
is
what you're
that
saying.
distinction between
it
sometimes
dulls certain parts because it is about limiting
Yes,
parts of yourself.
it
So,
does
like,
dull.
If
But
you're on a path, and
sometimes it's not even of your own doing.
I'll just say it now. So when you're on the path of the warrior, you're following like the elder god of Cain.
Cain.
Cain,
yeah.
Kala.
Kalemencha Kane.
Yeah, Caleb. And like he could potentially be like possessing you to some degree.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
that
called
what-
like a
the
red
war
veil.
mask?
The war mask, yeah. And
So-
what it is it puts you into the state of violence
Right.
where you're numb to everything that you're doing, and there is no joy, there is no compassion, there's just
Yeah.
warrior.
But having said that, like, if you didn't have some type of divergence, like if you couldn't feel compassion at all, everyone who went on the path of the warrior would then be lost on the path of the warrior.
It's all
So
about
I do
being
like-
able to shed the war mask.
Yeah, you turn it on, like whether that's mentally or whatever. It's like that.
Yeah.
I'm going into battle now, or I'm going into training, so
Yeah.
I put on this kind of.
But sometimes
It's
that
not something
mask
physical you put
sometimes
on.
that mask never comes off.
Sure, which would be then you're getting lost, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because if you can't take the mask off, if you can never feel
Exactly.
compassion, even after the battle's over, that's a good sign that you're lost or becoming lost. You need an
I could talk about the
intervention.
path of the warrior more just because there's so much about
We'll
it.
get to it.
All right,
We'll
all
get
right.
to it.
We
Yeah,
should
yeah.
actually stick to our paths here.
Wow, Jordan. The next one we have is the path of the artisan.
we pretty much said like
Yeah.
yeah, it's anything. The way you said it was anything that you do with emotion that has no real value. So
Well, if you don't consider beauty to
Well,
be valuable, or
so-
like, there's
so,
lots of
'cause-
value, but it's like
We were trying to make the distinction
yeah.
between this and like the path of what was
like
the
to
other
me,
one?
I'm like, oh, so would this be where blacksmiths fall under? Because they make weapons, it's artsy. But Eric was like, the path of the artisan is all about like your emotional connection to it. You don't make like a weapon, like you make that weapon and it can be beautiful, but you make it for a purpose. Where art ultimately has no purpose beyond that emotional appeal that you get for it. You can build a beautiful house, but that house has a purpose. You know, it has.
sure.
Yeah, if
It's-
you're building it for someone else, I don't think that's the part of path of the artisan.
Yeah. I think
Like-
it would fall under something else, personally.
If you're building something because it's bubbling up in your desire, that is the path of the artisan. It has to come from within you as opposed to someone telling you do this.
I mean, I'd see it more as like subpaths within the path, whether it's like incredibly useful or not. I think it all still falls under the same path. I don't think that there's going to be another like, you know, the maker of tools path is like being separate enough from the artisan path. I think it just falls under the same path, because whether you're
Yeah.
building a fountain or like a sculpture, like it's the bigger question of like what value does art have in a society and in a culture and in
well,
these
in
things,
Eldar,
right?
they actually they love art, right? So they appreciate art, but the difference is here is the path of service, and that one finds their strength and joy through subservience and physical and menial labor.
Sure.
So most of Eldar society is automated. So then Mark was like, well, what happens if they just need something created? Do they get a path of the service person to do it, or do they get a path of the artisan to do it?
Yeah, and if you're on the path of the artisan and you're a blacksmith, it's because you love being a blacksmith. Sure, you could get some sort of like robot servitor or something, or like 3D print off whatever you need,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
a weapon or something. But if that's your desire, then you're on the path of the artisan and you're in there forging things and making things, because that's your path. That's what brings value to you. But it doesn't mean it like that there's not other ways that they could get that, right? Like, doesn't that make sense? That
It does. Yeah, I can see it going both ways for sure. Because like
Eric
originally,
disagrees.
yeah, because originally that's pretty much what I thought too, and then Eric said like that whole emotion thing, and then it.
Well, who's the expert, really? You've brought in the Eldar expert.
This is true. Okay, I'm going with Peter. I'm sorry.
Tiebreaker goes to me.
Yeah.
No, give me your thoughts.
Well-
help me understand.
Like when you're reading the path of the Eldar, and I think his name is Karan. What's his name? Cal.
In the book,
Yeah,
you're
in the
talking
book.
about the Path of the Warrior.
No, is it the path?
Did
of
you
the
read
Warrior?
those books, Peter?
I read 80%
Nice.
of the first book in preparation for this podcast.
But originally, the main character was on the path of the artisan, and
Right.
so was the girl, even
Yes.
the female elder. Both
They
of
have
them,
ladies.
barely.
Oh.
It's not a particularly feminist book. Let me say that right now. There's a little too much male representation in that book for my liking.
The book or the universe?
The book.
Because
I'm gonna blame the
40K
author.
as the universe.
Peter, watch
Seems
your
a little
tone here.
Underrepresented.
But both of them are on the path of the artisan. She focuses on poetry, but never once displays her works for anyone else because they are completely personal. He, on the other hand, is a sculptor and creates these massive displays for anything. And I find no examples. And they also mention the fact that plays are written.
Sure.
As part of the artisan.
Right.
And then he's also competing with other art people on the path of the artisan to create the most dazzling, the most amazing displays. But in nothing that I read about the path of the artisan, is there any functionality in these items? There's never once. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's nothing that's saying it can't happen, but I have yet to see an example of them using their talents for a functional item as anything other than a complete emotional expression of something non-real.
Sure. I don't see like the expression of another. I don't think it fits into the path of service personally. I think I would put it as a sub-path under the artisan path.
Yeah, that
Not
could
that
be
it really
thing. There could be a path
No,
of
you're
the
wrong.
artisan that has the path of service in it, essentially. They would call it something different, but I see what you're saying. Like a certain path on the
I think
path of
that's
the artisan
and that's
has.
the big thing too is
Yeah.
even to understand like within their culture, like you've got like the big paths, but like is there a government that's keeping track of what path you're currently on? Like, do people care? Is it more just that
Well, it's
you're
all
just kind of
personal.
expressing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
You would-
I'm on the path of the artisan, and this is how I'm expressing that. I'm making beautiful weapons.
Yeah.
And then they're like, whoa. You actually can't be on the path
Well,
of the
hold
artisan.
on. There must be someone who is watching this, because if you claim to be on a path that you just made up, what if that is a completely like destructive path?
I wonder how much of this is just like culturally ingrained. So it's just like part of their culture where there's like certain taboos or things that you wouldn't do. And it's not so much that somebody specifically is watching you as much as just as a culture, they would see like the outliers or like the weirdos where you're doing something like, I think they just made up some sort of weird path. Like, I think we need to, you know, just the culture around the people they interact with would be kind of going, what's up with Gary? Why is Gary on this weird path?
Eldar Gary.
Eldar Gary. Yeah.
It's Gary with two eyes at the end.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
it's not a Y. It's two eyes.
And the R has an umlaut on it. Okay, that's enough of the path of the artisan. Let's talk about the path of command.
This path is reserved for those members who have already completed several paths, which is unique. Like this one, actually, you have to be talented. And one of those paths has to be at least the path of the warrior.
Yeah, and an interesting thing to note about this path is you can complete the same path multiple times.
Yeah.
Because there's kind of two aspects of it. You can either you do a path and you complete it till it's done, but let's say 3,000 years later, you're having some weird feelings and cravings again. You're like, man, like this creativity is bubbling out of me and I have no place for it on my path of the dreamer, right? So you leave the path of the dreamer and you go deal with this emotion by rejoining the path of the artisan.
Yeah.
Same thing with anger or rage. You're feeling anger and rage and you just go back to the path of the warrior.
Yeah.
So this, on the path of command, like you could potentially have done the path of the warrior multiple times.
Yeah.
And you've done other paths. And
Yeah.
So-
and the purpose of this path is to become an autarch and an autarch, and they're responsible for like leading Eldar in battle. So that's why you need that path of the warrior.
Yeah, so it's definitely still a military and like fighting force path, but there's also just going to be other aspects and responsibilities for you while you're on it.
Yeah.
Because you're not just only going to be a warrior, you're also just going to be like
you're
a community leader.
Yeah, you're guiding fleets. You're
Yeah.
Negotiating a peace arrangement.
You're advising like
Yeah.
the leaders of the craft world that you're on.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this makes me have a lot of questions about how some of this is going to work, because I think like, so are you choosing again, like you choose your path? So am I saying like, I choose the path of command, I'm ready? Like, is there like an opening?
Just imagine how horrifying if Eric could just choose the path of command.
Right, he's just like,
and
I'm in charge
we,
now.
Yeah, and we are all stuck
Look at
listening
me.
to him.
Look at me. I am the autarch now.
That would not be good. That would not be a good thing.
So yeah, is it like you're waiting for like a job opening, right? Where it's like, oh dang, we're short one autarch. We need somebody, and then you're like, I will do it. Or is it?
Of course you will, Eric.
Yeah,
of
or
course
just you're
you
like,
will.
It's about time I was in command, and then it's well, okay, he
Killmonger.
wants to follow that path, and so now, like, how do you think that would
It's
work?
probably such a small amount of people.
It is.
Yeah.
It
doing
really.
it that like it would just spontaneous like. You'd
It's a
probably
necessity thing.
you'd probably naturally only you'd have such a limited amount of people doing it that like sort of a spontaneous order thing where the supply never exceeds demand.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Cool. As I bump into everything. So yeah, and that makes me question, like, for some of these, right? Like, what happens when, like, for artisans, it's fine because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, we can support as many artisans as we want. That okay, but for some of these other ones, what if you have like, you know, you're looking at Eldar society and they're like, oh man, we're really short on commanders. Like everybody is just in a season where they want to be artists and that's our whole society right now. We don't have like see a deficit in some of these areas. How would that impact a craft world?
Okay.
You know,
I
like,
kind of have an idea about that.
No, go for it.
So Eldar society is very communal. And like you can kind of get a sense of the feeling of how the craft world is doing because everyone is connected at the very least because they're psychic, but also more because of the infinity circuit. Like when the craft world is in danger, everyone feels it. When the craft world is in need of something, everyone feels it.
or if there's a war, you would we need a lot more
Right, and
warriors,
people
so
just
would
so
take
like
that
the
on.
avatar of Cain can just like if he senses something is coming and like because all of them are looking down the web of fate. What's that called? What do they call it? The skein. So like the seers are constantly looking down the skein, right, trying to determine what's happening in the future, and Eldar society like, and this is kind of just my interpretation of it is that it will fill its gaps because of what's needed. If they feel that a battle is going to come 30 years from now, like more Eldar will start to feel the desire and the need to join the path of the warrior.
Like, is that psychically manipulated?
Yes. But it's not really a manipulation as it is like they all just understand like just intrinsically that something is going to happen and the Eldar
It's
the
almost
craft
like
world
a
is going to
kind
need
of a
protection.
spiritual impression.
Yes, a spiritual impression. That's a good way to put it. Just because, like, the Infinity Circuit houses all their knowledge and on all their things, and they're all connected to that. And, you know, the spirit just feels danger because of this battle that's coming in 30 years. And so all the people get that impression of danger and how dare someone attack us. And then Kayla just starts to pick Eldar and they all join the path of the warrior. But in peace times, you know, it's more like there's
who cares what you're doing?
Right,
now?
exactly. But when it comes to command, it's like we're going to need it. And then the desire of the craft world will affect how you feel because you are connected to it and you kind of leech and latch onto that. And then it will force people to rise to the occasion.
And there's inspire them to more
Yeah.
than force them to.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Inspire.
it's more
better
like it's more
word,
of
yeah.
a positive. Than
Absolutely. Yes. No,
negative.
I don't mean to say that, you know, you have no choice. It's just, well, you kind of have no choice because the choice is being made for you. Because if it weren't for this dangerous time, you would not be feeling this way. So it kind of is a force, but it's also, you still have to choose it.
Sure.
Unless, I mean, there are situations where you don't, but and there's no basis for this in any of the story. That's kind of just how I would picture them filling in their gaps.
Yeah, no, there has to be something. Otherwise, if it's too chaotic, if everybody is just choosing their own thing, then it's not going to work as a society. Because like, how would that work?
How does it work in our
everybody-
society?
No.
Yeah, but not everybody. But we're not motivated just by I can do whatever I want.
In fact,
and I'm
very
just
few
gonna
people
Like
are.
you're motivated by the need to get money,
Right.
And like the need
Are
to
you
provide
just
yourself.
doing-
But
the
Eldar don't
Eldar-
worry about that.
The Elder have no like monetary system.
They don't need
or-
it.
Their whole economy is done by automation and like everything, all their food's grown by robots and all that stuff.
Like housing is never a problem. You're just assigned a living quarters.
Yeah.
Like your clothes are taken care of. Like even like in the story, like a
Well,
seer.
but wouldn't there even be if like let's say a particular path is is, say, oversaturated with people on that path, wouldn't that sort of, because you would kind of you'd still want to stand out as someone on a particular path. You wouldn't want to go in like an oversaturated path that has so many people and so much kind of competition where it'd be hard for you to like advance in rank. You'd want to, so it would sort of be a somewhat self-correcting process where people would go to different paths.
So you're looking at it from a perspective of where my decision impacts yours. My decision to be on the path of the artisan impacts your decision to be on the path of the artisan. But in Eldar society, there's less of that and more of your own introspection. If you are having uncontrollable desires or you just feel it's time to go on this new path, society's decision should have nothing to do with yours, because you care about your soul. And if you get lost on something and you can't control it, that's your fault. And so you need to deal with your own things as opposed to letting everyone else's impact yours.
It seems like there is some portion of, like, within an Eldar, it's like, okay, what's good for me and what do I want to do? And then also the component that is like, what's good for the Eldar and what do I need to do for the Eldar? And it seems like those can be in different times.
Sure, absolutely.
More of an emphasis.
But I don't believe there's any kind of equilibrium.
Then like you'd say, there must be some sort of like, because it's still a social society.
Yes, and Eldar are very social.
And you want to contribute to society.
Yeah, and
so you want to do what's good for the good of the Eldar.
Precisely. And so it's not, I feel like there wouldn't be zero incentive to not go down particular paths or to not go down particular paths.
And you are correct. There are like famous artists that people aspire to be like. And so in the Path of the Artisan, like you aspire to have your works known just as much as these artisans did.
Yeah.
You know, when you're a warrior, you aspire to be like
great
an amazing
exploits
warrior.
in battle and whatnot.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that can disappear when you no longer care about that particular facet of yourself or you're focusing on a different one. If you're on the path of the artisan, you don't care who the best warrior is. Because you're not focused on that.
But then
it's only when you join that path.
At the end of the day, like you said, like I think the psychic connection is also part of their social cohesion.
Right.
So therefore, that would influence. I would imagine I guess, unless there's something explicitly saying that, but you can kind of imagine that maybe that would influence what someone's path would be.
Yeah, that was kind of my like best idea of how it would fill the holes.
And here's why that's all wrong.
All right.
Just kidding.
Hit it on me.
Just kidding. No, I like that psychic. You feel it, so you can kind of
You definitely feel it.
Could even potentially like the warp have an influence on like when people are breeding, even like in vitro in the womb, like they're genetically being designed to be predisposed to particular paths?
It doesn't. I don't
Maybe
know.
That's
because
a bit outlandish, but
they seem to switch paths so often, and it seems like you could just switch. Like, which brings up another question. I don't want to get too far off rabbit trail, but like
rabbit trails are good.
But just think about how it's gonna work if all of a sudden one day Eric is just like, I'm not on the path of the podcast anymore, and now I'm going to go over here. And you're like, well, really, we're kind of counting on you. Like, unless there's just another guy who just steps up immediately and is like, I am on the path of the podcast now.
Yeah.
Like, it would be kind of frustrating. It doesn't seem like Eldar get frustrated by this because everybody's supportive whenever somebody's like, I'm just drawn over here. They're like, cool, go for it.
Yeah.
But like, it'd be weird if people were just constantly able to just change and pull out.
And maybe on some of these more important ones, like the Path of Command, they actually have some type of structure. Like you can't leave
like a contract.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe.
Or it's just more. You have to be more vocal about like. I don't know if I love this. And
if
you're like preparing for that inevitability.
Yeah, like or if you're on the Path of Command, like you take like somebody in your tutelage,
right?
You know, like you make sure that there's going to be somebody to fill your spot. Like it is interesting because like an Eldar after a battle on the Path of Command could be like, well, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm just not feeling it anymore.
So and then like then what? And then what? It's like we're still in the middle of a war here. You can't just walk out. He's like, well, I'm done.
There's definitely that possibility, but if like, and I don't say my idea is perfect, but if all of a sudden there's a massive gap in the path of command, the craft world will fill it. Someone will step up because society is going to demand it, but not really society, but the survival of your race needs that thing.
Yeah.
And that person will be raised up to fit that. And you even see that in the Path of the Warrior when like an exarch dies, someone very quickly will rise up and fill that void and become lost upon the path.
Which is a smaller number,
of course.
So for like some of the
that's a
command, it's probably okay, and some of them aren't as important because you can do without. If everybody quits being an artist,
No big
you're
deal.
going to be okay. But yeah,
No, that's very interesting. I don't know.
I think that's where there's got to be a
strikes a
component
balance
where it's you're doing what's good for yourself, but also what's good for the Eldar. So if you're in the middle of a battle and you're like, you know what, I'm just not feeling this anymore. Well, then after the battle is over, after the war is over, then I'm going to move on from this path. I don't think it's so much like you're just like instantly, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm over here, and everybody's okay with that. It's more like, hey, I'm gonna be moving on.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more of some time that takes.
There would have
but
to be
I
that.
could also see that not happening, and an Eldar is in the middle of a battle, and the war mask just breaks. I could see that happening, and all of a sudden they have the full impact of their violent actions on them, and they just quit. I could see that happening.
I don't think that'd be common, but yeah,
Yes, I agree. I don't think it's common, but I can see that outlying happen. Like you're in the path of the Artisan is in the middle of creating and all of a sudden loses all desire.
Oh god, that's
create.
like every 40k player ever. Mid army, fuck it, I'm done.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm convinced.
They move over to something completely different. Like
How many paths have you walked for 40k armies?
Oh
Mark?
god, 17.
so many.
Okay. No, that's interesting. Let's move on. Yes,
let's move on. So this actually next path is really weird. And it's really cool. This is the Path of Damnation. And no Eldar upon any craft world should ever walk this path. But this is more just...
Unless you feel called to it.
Unless you feel called to it, of course.
I just feel in my heart...
mine heart of hearts.
...that I am to walk the path of damnation. And you guys just need to be cool with that, because that's the choice
That's
I'm
who
making.
I am now. This is what the Eldari would refer to the Drukhari as being on. So the Drukhari the Dark Eldar don't feel that they are on any path. They feel like they're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And the Eldari look at them and say, no, clearly you are on a path. It's just one that leads to damnation.
Yeah. And having said that too, like nothing is really concrete. Like every Eldar you talk to will probably have a different idea of what Path of Damnation is. Like there is no...
It's whatever we don't like.
Essentially, it could be, right. But it's a very unknown path. Like, because if you walk upon it, you are now like
there's no way you'd live in Eldar society if you're on this path.
Yeah, so
because you would not fit.
But so the craft world Eldar, like Eric said, believe that the Dark Eldar are on this path, and this path uses the pain and agony of other beings to create a psychoactive barrier that protects the Eldar from the attentions of Slaanesh. By feeding on this energy, they prevent their own soul from being consumed by Slaanesh, and even keep their own bodies alive indefinitely, but at the cost of their moral and eventual damnation of their soul. Because as we know, like, all Eldar souls are constantly being fed upon by Slaanesh. But, like, when you walk on one of these paths, that kind of, like, protects you a little bit, keeps you a little safer. And that's why, like...
you don't give in to the excess that your race can do. Instead, you're focused on something. Yeah. You're reining it in. You're disciplining yourself, which protects you from Slaanesh.
Yeah, and that's why, like, the craft world think that the Dark Eldar can, like, maintain themselves, is because they're still doing a path. They're still...
focused on something.
Yeah.
They are still being disciplined, even
just
though
in a
it's
weird way.
In a bad way.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit before about how Dark Eldar... instead of having their own souls eaten, they use the agony and pain of the slaves and of their gladiators to serve in their place.
Yeah.
And this really fits well hand in hand with it. Like, you know, a lot of Games Workshop things, like, they don't fit well, but this actually fit. But this actually has a really good fitting to it. And I really enjoy this one, actually, because it offers an Eldari explanation of the Drukhari.
Yeah.
Right? So it's almost like the Eldari, and when I first got introduced to like the Eldar and the Dark Eldar, they seemed like opposites. Like they could never get along, they would never understand each other.
Yeah.
But when you look at it through this explanation of the path of damnation, the Eldar just think that the Drukhari are just on a different path. And that definitely opens up their potential for relationship.
The Dark Eldar relationship and the Eldar is very different than like the Imperium
and
Heretic.
Chaos.
Like there is no getting along.
Right.
There's no feasible way you can make an alliance. But yeah, there's a lot of alliances that are made between the Eldar and the Dark Eldar, and
I like
because
Dark Eldar are constantly, because they are not on a traditional path, their souls are constantly being fed upon by Slaanesh, which makes their bodies grow weak and old, and they look like their skin is like crackling and breaking, and
just a typical picture of Eric, essentially.
But they're growing old and they're dying because of this. Mm-hmm. But when they are on this path of damnation and they use the pain and agony of the people they torture, they actually restore their own soul. And it's an interesting thing to look at. Is an Eldar, a Dark Eldar will go into a room looking like an old hag, do their torture thing, and they'll come out looking like the most beautiful being you've ever seen. And it'll actually revitalize their body. So technically a Dark Eldar has found the true path to immortality, as opposed to a regular Eldar, which will at some point die of old age. But this Dark Eldar...
You're sounding a lot like...
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying it's good or
What path
bad.
are you currently watching?
I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying they've discovered it.
You're just saying it's the best.
Hey, just wait. Like, so Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, how far into it are you?
I'm like 3 episodes
Yeah,
in.
you're
Okay, so spoiler alert,
you'll
Peter.
learn. You'll learn, Peter, what it takes for immortality. Anyways, but it's an interesting thought that this path, even though it is a path of damnation, they are still protecting themselves from Slaanesh by following this path.
Yeah.
Which is
Cool.
Agony and pain of another creature.
Perfect.
My favorite.
Sounds great.
All right, Path of the Dreamer.
The Eldar on this path, they enter a meditative dream state, sometimes for even days at a time. They have developed the ability to even control their dreams. This path allows for a very large amount of introspection. So whereas the Path of the Awakening was focusing outwards, the Path of the Dreamer focuses inwards on yourself and how you are and how you relate to everything.
Yeah. Why you make those decisions you make, and well, is there some deep-seated issue there? Or
exactly. You know, what has created you? You know. The interesting thing about this is, Peter kind of mentioned it before, is that you have to be really careful not to get lost in the dream.
Yeah.
Because
how many times do you hit the snooze button in the morning?
At least 7.
You're lost on the path.
It's bad. It's really
you are
bad.
lost on the path.
Yeah.
It seems like this would be the easiest one.
Oh,
you think,
absolutely.
to get lost on. I mean, there are dream watchers whose like whole job it is to just watch new people who are on the path of the dream to make sure they don't get lost.
Yeah.
Like unless you would say that the path of the warrior maybe is easier.
Honestly,
to get
I think
lost on.
any path is easy to get lost in.
This one just seems
I'd agree with Peter.
a lot easier than others, because like even like the path of the artisan, you're kind of like putting something in, right? Like you're like working on this sculpture. There's some component of what you're doing with it. This is just like you lie down and go into a trance,
And then in
your
this
mind
one-
just kind of wanders away.
I don't know if I agree with that. The idea that you just wander and you lie there. Like the ability to shape and control your dreams requires an effort and an input. And then if the purpose of this is introspection, if you just sit there and let the dream happen to you, you're not really learning or doing anything. But if you're creating and shaping the dream and trying to understand what it is, you can get lost.
So you're saying
like
this
on
is,
the knowledge.
This is less like you're just like taken away and like swept away into your dreams. And to make this work, it's really more like you're putting an effort into shaping things and thinking through things. And if you're not doing it, you're not. It's not really going to work for you. You're just going to fall asleep. Or you're gonna
that was my
just
understanding
have
way
a nap.
more. Is that it's less like, because
Because then
everyone
getting
dreams.
lost on it isn't that you just like go
Give
to sleep
up.
and don't wake up. Yeah, and you're depressed and you're just like,
No,
oh,
it's
everything
that
sucks. But
you
you get
go
lost
deeper
and you're going
and
too
deeper.
deep and you're just thinking through like all these things and
Right. It's trying
to get lost
like
because you're going too far in it.
if you're like, why did I choose chocolate milk this morning instead of white milk? Well, I chose it because of this. But why did I choose that?
Because of my mom.
this. Why did that happen? Because of this and this. And that is
my
more,
childhood.
But that is more getting lost upon the path of the dreamer than someone who just lets themselves be swept away. I think there might be an aspect of that, but to me it was more like the deeper you go, you never find your way back out.
Interesting.
No, I can see that.
It was
You
a very
can,
Inception type thing.
People
Sure.
can get crippled by indecision, and if like you're looking at every decision, and you like, eventually you'll find that spot where you just can't make decisions.
Right, exactly. Because
okay, so
everything has a reason, and if you
and then you have to think about like, okay, I'm gonna do this decision, but why am I gonna do this decision?
Right, yes.
Before you even made the decision, and then you can't even make the decision because you're trying to figure out why you're gonna make the decision.
to make the decision.
Exactly.
Yes.
So sure.
That was more how I viewed getting lost on the dream.
Yeah, okay, so it's not so much, that you're just falling asleep, having a good time, killing zombies in your dreams, banging bitches. You're
Emperor, farmer's wife.
yeah. You're actually trying to benefit your own spiritual, mental
Understanding,
well-being
yeah.
type thing. Yep, sure. And that could be scary for some people. I don't want to know why.
I don't
want
want to know why.
Holy.
There's some questions I don't need answered.
Yeah, exactly. Why did you decide to grow that beard, Eric?
I don't want to know.
I want to
It's
know.
because I look like a small child without it.
There we have it. Okay, great.
All right.
All right, well.
Did we? Yeah, we talked about Dream Watchers. We did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
they watch you while you're dreaming to make sure you don't get lost
Yeah.
on the path.
And also, to make sure that you remember to wake up so you can eat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
and
cool.
Stay nourished.
Yeah.
All right, next
Path of
one.
grief.
Path of grief. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, no, this is a bit of a strange one. So in this path, the Eldar feel the pain and suffering on behalf of all Eldar. So whenever there's like a calamity or something's going wrong, people are dying.
Yeah,
they're the
like
ones
the
who are
Eldar
feeling the grief.
The warriors come back from a mission and it was terrible, and 50 Eldar died.
And so they have the capacity on this path to kind of feel some of these intense emotions, go into the depths kind of where other Eldar might be dangerous for them.
Absolutely.
They might not be able to kind of take themselves to that place because they'll go too far, but they're able to kind of walk that path, feel those emotions properly, like process them, deal with them.
Yeah.
But it's a little weird to have people who are like feeling grief on the behalf of like a people.
It is interesting.
So I think it can go back to that whole all the Eldar are connected psychically. So I might give you my initial psychic like emotion, and then from there I let go of that emotion, and then the path of the grief, he can work through it, he can do that, and then when he's like solved it, like when he's come to terms with it, you could then meet up, and then he could give you like that final like
There's
everything is okay, and you're like everything's okay. And the guy who suffered the calamity never had to do any of that work. It's all on the path of the grief.
There's definitely some aspect of that.
Yeah.
Which is weird. It almost seems like cheating.
If
Absolutely,
You know what I mean?
but it's
like
it's,
because it's these. The way I picture it is, if there's this psychic connection between all these Eldar, then there's these release valves, right, that are like properly processing through these emotions and getting rid of them.
Yeah.
And so like the grief is one of those, right, where
Yeah.
they're feeling it and then they're releasing this so that it's not dangerous.
Yeah.
But it just. Like, unless they're like a grief counselor, right? Where it's like they're talking with you and helping you to deal with stuff. But to do it on behalf of like, man, Eric just lost somebody and, there was this horrible calamity. And so I feel that on his behalf. And you're just like, la, 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 la.
I think
It's
there's
crazy.
kind of a two-sided coin to this. One is that if I'm on like the path of the Artisan, just as an example, I'm on this path,
Right.
and one of my friend dies, and you're on the path of grief. At like my capacity to feel grief within the path of the Artisan doesn't exist.
Sure.
To the same ability that yours does.
Right.
So I am unable to mourn my friend to the level that he should be mourned, because anytime an Eldar dies is devastating, because that's such a important, like, they're very social, right?
And they've lived a long time.
Right, and they have a lot of
known him
experience.
for 1,000 years.
Yeah, no, for sure. It should absolutely cripple me. But because of the path I'm on and because of the focus that I'm doing, I am unable to process that. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. And that's where you step in, is that even if there is
I remember them, I know that they died.
Yeah.
I kind of walk through that while you are like
numb to
dead
it.
and, you know, incapable of feeling
Absolutely.
proper emotions.
I do think
but that's so weird.
It's like it's a professional
cool cultural
mourner.
kind of a thing, but it's very bizarre.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, like, for sure. But so is any of this when you really think about it. Like, someone who is on the path of service and is, like, fully invested into the path of service, like, in my understanding, loses the ability to create for creation's sake. And as soon as they feel like it's time for them to create, now they are no longer on the path of service. And they lose, not lose, but they put aside that portion of themselves that was to service. So if you're not on the path of grief, you have put aside your ability to grieve.
Like, I can see where for each individual Eldar, when they're on the path, I can see the benefit of it to them personally. Right? Like, even if you're walking the path of grief, like, that's good. Like, these are good things if you're creating or if you're serving. But the inability that people on these paths have to feel some of these other emotions is where it starts to get weird. And so the fact that you're on the path of the artisan and you're not able to process and deal with or feel even these same emotions, that's where it starts to get a little strange and eerie.
We also we got to remember that they aren't human.
Right, no, and I love the alienness of it.
It is very alien.
I prefer when my aliens are alien, you know?
And they're not just humans in another body.
But it's just weird to think about that.
Yeah.
It's a very alien way to think.
They could even, like, to keep them from feeling other emotions, they can always toss up, like, psychic blocks and stuff with their psychic abilities.
Yeah.
And that would definitely help them from feeling it. And yeah. But
like, grief is a very powerful emotion, right?
I've seen many people get destroyed by grief.
I can't tell if you're being serious or not, because that's actually a real thing, and how
Oh,
dare
I
you
know.
joke about
Is
that?
that because you've hurt them so badly? Is that what you're saying? That
no,
you've-
just
I have
saying.
many
You've
grievances.
grieved people so badly.
Many grievances.
No, I
against me.
just
They're
saying
lost on
I've
the
seen
path.
people who
Yeah,
can't
no,
properly
it's-
deal with their grief, and
It's
they,
challenging, for sure.
it's just I can't be taken seriously. So even when I say something serious, people are like, "Are you joking?"
That's Brent too. Oh man, yesterday we were walking by and he sees this car and he's like, "Man, that car is dirty." And I look, I'm thinking to myself, like, that's a nice car. So I asked
You're going
him,
through all the details. Like, you look, there's no dirt on that car.
Right, no,
Is
you're
that
right.
a cool car? No,
Right.
yeah, it looks cool.
yeah, but his voice was that it's dirty. And so I have to ask him, I was like, I don't know if that means a good or bad thing. Like, I need you to explain that. And he's like, Eric, I said it's dirty. I'm like, I don't know what that means. That's just you and your family. That's
You still don't know.
No, I have no
Yeah.
idea. You just kept saying it was dirty. Okay. Anything else about Path of the Grief we want to talk about?
Just this whole like psychic release valve kind of thing is the psychic connection between a whole group of people where they like somewhere along the way they realize like we need people to feel these emotions, to remember our dead and to properly grieve for them. And even the whole psychic connection of like that needs to be processed, because if some of these like psychic emotions build up too much, even in like a whole people
Without
or in a
acknowledging
craft world,
them.
without being processed, the danger that comes from that it might not just be just an individual
It's a necessity
getting
thing.
lost on the path, but all of us maybe like not processing through certain things or aspects that psychically could come back to really hurt you with Slanesh.
Of course, yeah. It's a good way to put it. Okay, let's talk about the Path of the Healer.
These Eldar are sorry, messages.
Yeah, they're just healers.
Yeah,
They,
exactly. And whether it's physical healing, spiritual healing, mental,
Emotional, psychological.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
when you're in a universe that's constantly
exactly
at war,
yes, Jordan,
if you're living
always
in a,
relevant.
Jordan is a sexual healer.
in a grimdark universe where there's war constantly,
That
you're
doesn't
gonna
mean we
need-
can't have a little bit of fun.
You're gonna need some good healers.
Doesn't mean we can't have a little fun.
That one was for you, Matt. But yeah, these Yeah, there's a good part of this is like you go to a psychologist and you share like what you're working through. That's just as important on the path of the healer as healing a physical Eldar's
doctors,
body.
surgeons.
Yes, because your soul and your mind is so important to an Eldar that like you gotta make sure that you're not straying or you're not straying.
Oh,
What did I say?
strang. You're not strang.
I have a stuffed nose. Leave me alone, Mark.
We get it. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's all every part of an Eldar's aspect is important to be healthy to them, and so Path of the Healer will help you retain that.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Now,
How would you get lost on the Path of the Healer?
Well, I was thinking about that, but I could see you can get lost in any of these paths. Like you just give yourself to. You're more focused on helping others and healing.
There's great satisfaction from helping people.
Yeah.
So.
It's more okay, but
Eric's he's not convinced by that.
The path
look
he's
on
on.
his face.
That's because the path he's on, he doesn't feel these emotions.
Holy shit!
Compassion, wanting to help others.
Well, none of those
seeing them
exist.
get better.
They don't exist in
The
a real
look
capacity.
on your face was like the joy you can get from helping people. Disbelief, utter, complete.
So
Wow.
to me, though, again, it just comes back to the challenge within this like craft world of if you are a surgeon, if you are in a highly trained profession, and then you leave that path, it's not an easy thing to replace.
Yeah,
So it's just
they have to have some checks. Like maybe you always have to have an apprentice under you that can take it. But I don't know.
I mean, maybe it all balances out. Maybe it's just
Maybe.
because of the population of the craft worlds, they need enough of these, and psychically they manipulate or encourage people in certain ways that they find people to fill these spots. But it's just so crazy to think because in like our societies, people change jobs and people do different things. But like for Eldar, it seems like they could do this frequently. They could have multiple changes and they could change at any time.
Yeah.
And just because how many people in the world are doing a job that they would consider like either dead end or they're not really passionate about anymore, but they just do it because that's what they have to do.
2 check marks.
But if you didn't have that where you're just walking away from it and you can just do whatever else you wanted to do, I think there'd be some people that would be changing, and not sticking around. But to replace that, all those years of training and things that it takes to be able to do these things, to be a healer, like...
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. A lot of it too can come back to like all the automations in the machines. Like I wonder how many surgeries the Eldar are actually doing compared to allowing the machines to do it. Like I wonder.
So the healer is more the interpersonal stuff that like a machine can't do.
Yeah, or who
even
knows?
like a like
maybe the
you could psychically knit your bones back together.
Yeah, like
right.
Maybe the healer nowadays for a brain surgeon healer literally just presses the button for the machine to do it. That's his
like,
job.
Man, I feel satisfied.
Like he doesn't.
I did good work
today.
Like but yeah.
Okay.
Next one, Path of the Mariner.
Mariner.
He learns.
I know.
I want to live.
Half of my speech impediment is just laziness, and the other half is self-doubt. If I intentionally mess up, it's okay if I mess up.
Yes, of
because
course.
it was intentional.
Exactly.
Yes.
You did it on purpose.
Yes, I have
you did
spent
it on
some time
purpose.
on the Path of the Awakening. I know the inner workings of Mark.
That would be the Path of the Dreamer.
Oh, a dreamer, yes.
Yeah. The Path of the Mariner is reserved for crewmen and officers that pilot the craft world starships. So there's like a lot of scouting ships that a craft world will employ, or just like even ships that move between craft worlds when they meet up or go down to planets or whatever. Anyone that's a pilot or an officer, like they are, or even just serving on a ship.
Communications officer.
Yeah, exactly. Any of these guys are mariners.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
The
they
head
like.
mechanic.
Wouldn't that be Path of the Service?
Not if it's on a ship.
Not if it's on a ship.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
I would assume at that point it would be automated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
No, absolutely.
we can get into the minutia of that. But the reason you would want to join these guys is you don't feel satisfied with what's in your craft world, and you want to see something beyond the craft world. You want to experience what life is like and outside of the confines of regular Eldar society. You want to see the stars. You want to have a little bit more freedom to move around and stuff. So it's a very freedom-oriented path.
Explorer.
Yeah.
Yeah, an explorer. Yeah. While not being an outcast.
Ah.
Because that's the next one we're going to talk about. Is the path of the outcast. This is a very different path because like an Eldar who feels drawn to this path has kind of completely abandoned his desire to live within Eldar society.
Yeah. And in doing that, they reject the path system altogether.
Right. Yes, because they don't feel...
But are considered to be on a path.
Yes.
So can you really reject the path system?
I mean, the Eldar even have a path for the Drukhari. I mean,
Yeah.
they probably have a path for the Exodites too. The path of the farmer. The
They
path
just call
of the
whatever
simpleton.
you do. Yeah, you're on.
Simpleton.
The path of the Dino Rider.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And so they don't really fit into like the Eldar circles anymore. Like they typically don't live on craft worlds anymore.
Yeah, because they don't agree with the decision that you've made to follow a single path.
Yeah. And when they do go on craft worlds, they are not there for long periods of time.
Because they'll still have family, they'll still have friends that they'll visit, but the
Yeah.
reality is they find the conformity of the craft world stifling and unbearable, and they just desire to be free in the decisions they make.
Yeah, because the big thing is they ultimately want the freedom. They don't want to be stuck on one path. They want to be able to experience the entirety of the universe.
They want to experience anger and grief
Yeah.
and creativity and
at the same time.
exactly at the
Yeah.
same time. So theirs is without a doubt the most dangerous of these paths, other than the path of damnation.
Yeah, but this one will often lead to the path of damnation.
Yeah, of all of them, this one is the closest to it,
Yeah.
for sure. These guys actually prefer to take very long missions in space, like long advanced scouts, which is good because, the craft world still needs those. So they're
Yeah.
still fulfilling a role within the craft world. Most of these Outcast members, they actually become raiders, pirates, or even just Eldar corsairs. And Eldar pirates aren't like bad.
No.
That's just the term we've given them.
Yeah, it's more that they're raiding for resources rather than raiding for pleasure.
Right.
Like,
yes. Because
yeah.
if you raid for pleasure,
Now you're
on the path of the damnation.
Ah.
Or at least you're getting there.
Yeah. Path of the Scholar.
This is what Peter's on. This is Peter's path.
They desire nothing more than knowledge
Ah.
and the mastery of knowledge.
You guys remember that one video that was like, what I love more than driving my car through the California hills?
Books.
Knowledge.
Oh.
Oh, is that Ty Lopez?
I don't remember his name,
Yeah.
but he was getting super famous for a little while.
He's always on YouTube, right?
Yeah,
Like,
he's
the
like one of those
ads.
motivational speaker guys, change your life around by doing knowledge. He's the path of the scholar.
If you're a teacher, a researcher, scientist, any sort of academic, then this is the path for you.
Yeah.
Become lost. Become a mad scientist.
Books.
Books. Quick, pretend you're asleep. We're in a library.
Path of Service.
So this is where we find the weird potential crossover between Service and Artisan, because these guys, they find completion and fulfillment performing menial and sometimes physical labor. Even though everything is automated in Eldar society, you could just tell the robot no, this is my service.
I will empty this garbage.
Right. No, as dumb as that sounds, is pretty much what it is. It's
And everybody's just like, hey, you do you. That's what you love to do. Go for it.
And I think the whole thing is, the difference is that this has to serve a purpose for the community. And that, to me, is the main difference between artisans and servants.
Really, it just seems like all they care about, though, is that it gives you a sense of fulfillment and keeps you from going crazy and Slanesh feeding on your soul. That's
okay. So
ultimately it seems
every
like that's
path-
kind of the good, because
every
like you're saying,
path
it's
is
an
about
automated
personal.
system. They don't need any of these people.
But every path
there is no need.
is personal.
Right. So
every
it's just
path
you
is
love
requiring
doing this.
Okay, but the difference is that I also love researching.
But
so how is that not service? Because it's clearly focused in academical function, and it's not for the purpose of someone else's well-being, and that's what service is for.
Guys, I think the key word here is this is a fictional universe.
Do you even know what universe means, Mark?
Sorry. Sorry to interrupt your rant there.
No, it's just like there has to be that distinction, is that the service is specifically for other people.
But if you could just automate any of these things, to have somebody do it themselves is less efficient.
Absolutely.
So the only benefit that comes from it is just that person feels satisfied in what they're doing. So if you could just push a button and they do the surgery,
but so is
or you
artistry.
have a doctor do it.
We can create machines that create music.
Their whole culture is just built on, hey, we just need to find stuff to keep everybody to have a purpose and something to do.
But we can create machines that create music. We have no need for musicians other than their desires to create art. So the difference between the fact that someone wants to create art and someone wants to give a service to someone else, that's the difference. If I would like to be a blacksmith for the purpose of providing a service to someone else, that is path of the service.
But it's just, their whole society is just made up of like keeping people busy and like doing busy work to feel satisfied so that Slanesh doesn't feed on them. That's basically what it is.
Yes and no.
Which is why like you either find like fulfillment in that, or you just keep like switching between stuff, because like you can do any of this stuff and it doesn't really matter as long as you kind of feel good about what you're doing. So
you're
Slanesh
ruining my idea of the
you.
Perfect society.
I don't know. I just think it's kind of like at a certain point, like they just stick with the automation, and you know, like this guy, you just see like this janitor guy, and he's walking along and he's emptying all these garbages, and there's like a whole bay full of like robots that could do it better than him, but he's just, hey, you feel good about doing your day job. And
machines are fickle, and they'll break down, and they'll turn into AI, and they'll kill everyone. That's what I've learned from
they'll either break down or they'll kill us all. Those are two different directions, I think.
Either or. But while most of the craft world is automated, there are still some things that require a live touch.
Sure.
And that would be
prostitution.
Well, obviously. Well, no, sex dolls.
Passive service.
Sex dolls.
Not as good as the real thing, Eric. I know you wouldn't know anything about the real thing, but
all around me are familiar faces. But there are still some things that require a real life person to do, and that's what these guys would mainly focus on. It's tough for me to think of an example, but
art.
I'm sure.
Hey, no, Mark.
Are you talking about service?
Yes.
Oh.
Like, what's an example
we're
that
still on it.
What would you need someone to do that a robot couldn't?
Repair the robot?
We have robots that create more robots. Of course, they'd be able to repair them.
Okay, then
I would imagine.
But that's the whole thing I'm trying to say.
I would imagine in an entirely automated economy, like all sorts of jobs would open up that would require more human touches. Even as far as like,
give an example.
Customer service.
Customer service is one, but even things like you could probably.
What need is there for customer service when you can have anything you want and there's no problem with it? Like, you know how you go to Amazon and you order something? Well, now in Eldar, you can just create what you want and it's delivered to your door.
Yeah, but if you have like a problem and you need troubleshooting or something, most people would prefer, and it's just like a human thing, and maybe it's perhaps an Eldar
very
thing.
Relational.
Yeah, you want to talk to like a real person rather than just an automation, right?
Jordan,
I suppose
I never
AI
want to talk to a real person.
Maybe you. Perhaps people who are like, you could probably like have people who are like just friends, right? Like you're lonely.
Wait, what?
You're a lonely.
I have a whole bunch of those.
Prostitution.
Yeah. Oh.
Anything to do with psychic, right? Like any psychic stuff, a robot.
I saw this hilarious.
That's true.
I saw this hilarious video where
troubleshooting your psychic abilities.
Where this woman like pays men to come over and cuddle her. Like that's
it's
like
very common in Japan.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. Well,
I think it's the vice versa where men pay women.
Okay. Yeah. But it's like that's like
Guys, I want to be a professional cuddler.
No.
I've decided.
Go shave.
The thing is, we couldn't actually.
My whole body?
It's. This is all like in our imagination. This is a fictional universe. We can't.
How dare you, Jordan? How dare you?
We
Put
can't.
the brakes right there.
We can't actually imagine what kind of industries or services would pop up as a result of automation. Like we can't even conceive of it.
No,
There
absolutely.
has to be something.
Of course,
what it is.
because it says there are some things that still require the live touch. We know there is,
Yeah.
but yes, because I don't live there, it's tough to picture exactly what they have created robots for and what they haven't.
Well, a good example of what requires an Eldar, it would be the next path that we have, the path of shaping, which a machine can't do that for you. If we go into
we can go in.
what the path of shaping
Yeah, let's go
is.
into it. On the count of 3, everybody.
Well, if you read our notes, Peter, you would see that the path of shaping is actually draws upon the path of the artisan and the seer, and actually has nothing to do with service.
No, the point I'm making is that these are things that only Eldar can do,
Oh,
and that
Yes.
automation can't take care of.
of course.
these.
But
That's-
if you're
that's what I'm trying.
But
to
if you're
say.
doing this, you're on the
Dumb
path of
Eric.
the shaper and not the path of the service.
Right, which is why I said let's take a look at the next path.
No, I'm on the rabbit trail of service, and we're not leaving until we've determined what an Eldar does for service. And I'm staying right here.
Use your imagination. Let's
But
move
what
on.
That's
they're doing
dangerous.
is they're just
That's dangerous.
It's just busy work. That's what all of this is. This is just a sham. There's so much of this. It's
How
just to
dare
keep
you.
them busy. That's the Eldar way. But that's exactly what it is, because otherwise, if you stay on
Give
one
some
thing for too
structure.
long, then you're going to get lost. If you don't bounce around, then Slanesh is going to feed on your soul. Like,
No,
this is all busy work.
yes.
That's their whole society.
Of course. But that doesn't mean it can't serve a purpose. Anyways,
It's fucked. It's all fucked.
let's talk about the path of shaping.
This path draws upon the similar values of the path of the artisan, as well as the practical knowledge of the path of the seer. Do we want to actually do this one after we do the path of the seer, maybe? Then people will know. Doesn't matter? Okay, fuck it.
Path of the seer is psychic.
Sure,
That's all you need to know.
sure. Good enough. Well done. Well done. You saved the day. And these Eldar will actually sing while employing their different psychic abilities to manipulate and create many different artifacts from Wraithbone.
So Wraithbone being like the skeletal structure of the craft world itself.
Yeah, and a lot of their things are made out of that. But
Like
it's
swords.
Yeah, it's like a psychic resonant material that you can like pour psychic into and like actually shape and manipulate it.
Yeah.
But
And interesting thing is that
solidified warp energy, I think, is what it's technically called. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
That's what it's technically described as.
Yeah.
So like you have to create like this Wraithbone, and then once it's there, then you have to have the ability to manipulate it.
Yeah, and like their whole craft world is made out of this stuff. Like most of their
Isn't that what the Infinity Circuit is? Is within the Wraithbone?
I
I
believe
think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because this is like
They're
what?
connected.
Yes. Yeah.
But these people along this path are called bone singers
Just because they sing this bone into
Yeah.
the shapes that they want.
Yeah. And the other very interesting thing that they do is they will make the runes that the seers use to perform their psychic abilities.
Yeah, and this is going to tie into the path of the seer
Yeah.
as we go forward.
So let's go forward. Path of the
All right,
seer.
let's go forward. So, sorry, before we do that, path
Sure.
of the shaper. So, do you think you have to have been on the path of the artisan and the path of the seer before you can go on the path of the shaping?
I don't think it would be necessary.
The path of the seer?
Well, it doesn't say that so for the path of the seer, you're like one of the most powerful psychers, right? But for the path of shaping, it doesn't say anything about like the
So, practical
what you're
knowledge
saying,
of
yeah.
the path of the seer.
but you're
You can't gain practical knowledge of the path of the seer if you never were on the path of the seer.
I don't know. I think you could have affinity to the Wraithbone and sing and a natural kind of talent or ability to kind of do that,
So-
and wouldn't necessarily, because it's like you could make something without fully even understanding like how the seers are going to use, like maybe if you're talking
I don't think
about
you can.
I do that
well, for
with
certain
electricity all the time. I don't know how the
Yeah,
fuck
but that's
it
because
works.
it's sorcery. It's
Oh,
different.
yes.
But like, so maybe for making the runes or things that like a seer would want, maybe that would require more knowledge. But if you're just like feel like
Yes.
in tune to like singing out, and because yeah, it's like part of this is like a structural thing for their ship, right? Like, so you're singing or drawing out like this beam, like a structural beam that's
Yeah.
gonna extend out part of the ship. Like, you don't need to have been a seer to do anything like that. So I think like for some of the deeper parts of it, maybe it would be a benefit to you.
I'm not
but
sure I
like
agree on
intro to like bone singing 101, I don't think you have to walk these other paths first.
The reason I think that I disagree to that is that if every Eldar is psychic, and as soon as you show an increased psychic ability, you're put on the path of the seer, just in order to learn to control it so you're not a danger to anyone else or yourself. Because that's the main thing about being psychic, is that you are it's a two-way street. That's what we've said all along, is that if you're using the immaterium power, the energies on the other side can just as easily come back and use you.
Yeah.
And if you don't learn to control it, if you're not walking that line, then you'll never, like, you should just never use psychic powers.
But wouldn't you see the path of the seer as being more like smaller or more rare, or something that you like? It's not just everybody is going on the path of the seer, right? Like, whereas I just don't see the shaping thing as like an offshoot of the seer path. I think it's something that
the reason I think you need it is because in shaping, you're literally taking warp energies and shaping it to your command. So the difference between a seer shooting a lightning bolt and a shaper creating wraithbone, they're both manipulating warp energy. They just have different outcomes. And so if you have no idea how to manipulate this warp energy, what on earth makes you think you can shape it into what you want? Because it's not like they're picking out, oh, this warp energy is specifically towards wraithbone. No, all warp energy is energy, and it's just now that you're going on the path of shaping, now you're learning how to make it wraithbone as opposed to what a seer or a warlock would do. So I truly think, just like how in the path of command, like you need to go on multiple paths before you can do it. Like I think on the path of shaping, you have to have at least an elementary knowledge of the path of the seer in order to go on the path of shaping. And I think even the path of the artisan, like maybe they would ask you like, hey, please explore this aspect of yourself before you wish to come work on our wraithbone. It's too valuable a resource for us to just let anybody do. Like you need to explore these different aspects of who you are before you're allowed to join us.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I think like it could be both ways. I could just picture it as like a low level like path of shaping person,
Like someone
who
just
is-
sweeping up the debris.
who's
No,
just
sorry,
like-
that's
it's
path of
just-
service.
They're basically like 3D printing out like some structural pieces, some really basic kind of stuff.
I actually found some Imperial found footage of the path of shaping here, so I'll just play you that real quick.
Get the fuck out.
This is actually how they shape the wraithbone.
See, can't you see how that would require the path of the seer?
The psychic energy being controlled right now.
Absolute, it's phenomenal. This room is electrically charged. I can feel it.
Just see
Mark,
the-
stop before we all explode. I almost thought you were going to put Cantina music on.
No,
Or the Rickroll. There's so many different options.
but that was official though.
Of course, of
Imperial
course.
found footage of the. Yeah. So let's talk about the path of the seer.
Okay. I guess we're done on Path of Shaping.
I ended
We can
it.
come back to it if we need to.
Nope, I'm done. Path of the Seer. So this is an interesting path, specifically because you might find your way to it, but you also might be kind of pushed into it.
Yeah, if you're a powerful psychic and you can't control yourself, you're gonna get kind of pushed by others in society.
But it's
to
also
that.
a weird thing because you also might force yourself to do it because you're like, man, I need to control this or else I am at danger.
Oh, yeah.
It seems to be kind of like a two-faceted option
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
So these are the most powerful and potent of all Eldar Psychers. Remember that every Eldar is a Psycher. But these ones just need a way to channel and focus and learn about their ability in order to protect themselves and the other Eldar that they're with.
To go on this path, you actually even have to master a couple other paths. Probably just develop yourself a little more, and that you have completely mastered your thoughts. Like you're, because
it's just so dangerous to deal with the warp.
Yeah.
So we like, even this one has a restriction upon it. I think I'm right about path of shaping. Anyways.
So in this path, there's actually 3 different major paths to it. There's spirit seers, warlocks, and far seers. So I know we say this, we haven't said this in a while, but we do plan on doing like a Path of the Seer episode where we really dive into like what spirit seers are and all this stuff. Same with when we get to the Path of Warrior, because they have all their different aspect warriors.
Talk about all of those.
Like these 2 are by far the biggest paths you can go on. In lore wise, like they have the most information.
This is what you
them.
See on tabletop. You don't see Path of the Artisan on the table.
Exactly. So there's a whole bunch of information. So spirit seers, we're just going to give you a quick little thing about what they are and maybe a couple thoughts, but they're seers that are responsible for guiding the constructs brought to life by the spirit stones. So any type of Wraith Knight, Wraith Lord, Wraith Guard, any of their like Wraith Bone that they put in a spirit stone to like control.
These guys, they're the ones that actually retrieve the soul.
Yeah.
So they would go, they go into the Infinity Circuit with their soul. They find like a previous hero or whatever. They draw him out or her out. They draw it out. It's a soul. It has no gender. They draw it out into a stone. They put that stone inside the Wraith Bone, and now this Wraith Bone construct is alive through the power of this soul.
Yeah, but it still does need like some guidance and stuff.
It's a very interesting thing what happens to a soul when it goes in the Infinity Circuit.
Yeah, like it kind of combines with other things and it loses itself, but gains more of itself, and like it's very magical. But that's kind of the base concept of a spirit seer.
So they have to have the ability to project their soul into the Infinity Circuit, keep who they are separate from the thousands, millions of Eldar souls that are in there, and pick things out. So that requires an intense amount of psychic ability.
Yeah. Next we have warlocks.
So these are Eldar that had previously undergone the path of the warrior and now are going through the path of the seer. So they've experienced some aspect of Kayla Menchikane, so they're the war mask, they're familiar with that, and now they're using their psychic abilities to help the Eldar war effort.
Yeah.
So these are the main ones that you see shooting lightning bolts.
Yeah, battle psychers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they have the ability to hold both paths in their hand while focusing on their psychic ability.
We mentioned how bone singers make runes for these guys.
Yes.
And if you look at their models, you can see that they have like all these different runes, and it allows them to actually do different psychic abilities. They'll combine different runes to make different effects, and like it protects himself from the warp. So as we know with like Space Marines, they use like the psychic hood to kind of protect them. This is kind of how they protect themselves from
it gives a focus, because if you just open yourself up without focus, like you're gonna be destroyed.
Yeah, the warp will consume you. So this is kind of how they maintain control, by using these different runes.
Oh, if you ever have a chance to read Path of the Seer, it's really cool how they describe seeing these runes in action. Like they're swirling around like these seers with energies, and then the seer like wants to bring a specific psychic ability to bear. So then the runes he want kind of just like all place in front of him, and they like grow and
and
then
there's like
manifests.
a bone singer behind him, like
no,
very cinematic.
But it is very cool to watch it, to listen to it be described.
Yeah.
But these are warlocks, and they are a military aspect of the seer.
Yeah.
And finally, farseers.
Farseers are Eldar who are lost upon the path of the seer. So they're responsible for looking deep into the future, where they're trying to help determine the best course of action for a craft world. So they're really cool.
Yeah.
And then they can turn into crystal if they stay, because they're kind of in this meditative trance-like state.
To look into the skein requires intense focus. You see even an aspect of the dreamer in this, in that you have to go so deep into like the warp and the skein of fate that you kind of lose yourself and your physical being.
And so then they can kind of crystallize, like they turn into crystal.
Yeah.
And then they'll take them and stick them in like a garden. And tap
Well, it's
them
like the
into
garden,
Infinity Circuit.
Yeah, the garden of like where the Infinity Circuit is, and where you can go like walk through this place that has like these spirits and everyone there. Like these farseers will go meditate in there, and like trying to see what the future holds for the Eldar craft world.
Yeah. And the Farseers usually, well, not usually, but they can lead craft worlds, but they're also like advisors to the people who do lead the craft
Even if they
worlds.
aren't the leader, like there's still a group of Farseers that are constantly all looking at different aspects of the future
and trying to divine which direction we should go in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was really interesting to read the Path of the Seer, and you could see that. So there was a warlock and a Farseer in battle at the same time. The Farseer was teaching the warlock. And the Farseer's like main purpose in battle, like there were no lightning bolts thrown out by this person, and all they were trying to do was divine the fate of the Eldar battle. And it was cool to watch it. Like, even though he's a ridiculously powerful psyker, he served no other purpose than trying to get a favorable outcome and have the least amount of Eldar deaths possible.
Right.
Which was interesting to see, is that's how he felt he was best employed upon the battlefield. Whereas like a Space Marine psyker, they're just going to be like lightning bolt forever.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Usually, yeah.
just very destructive, as opposed to the Eldar, who have a very protectionist view, kind of.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll eventually touch back on the Path of the Seer.
Yeah.
But that gives you a good understanding of what they are.
Yes.
So let's touch on the Path of the Warrior.
Yes. Excellent.
These Eldar feel rage, anger, and destructions. These are gifts from Cain himself, and is said to guide each warrior while on this path. They are responsible for cutting down the foes of the craft world and defending it from any threats. They're the warriors. So the warriors are actually made up of different aspects, and each aspect is a different part of the God of War, Cain. So some, like the Dire Avengers, they have a very like noble style of fighting. They use like tactics, and like it represents like Cain's like noble warrior type, like it's that typical fighter. Then you have others like the fire dragons, who use basically melt the guns, get up close and melt things, and it's like a hot fiery passion for war. So that represents like Cain's desire for hot fiery passion. You know, they have different hot fiery passion. They have different aspects, and each aspect represents a different part of Cain. So to be on the path of the warrior, you will choose one of these aspects and then follow it. You could stay on the path of warrior and eventually learn each aspect, but I don't think that would be very common. Like to master each one of these areas of wars.
That would I think that would put a really big strain on your soul.
Could.
Really.
Like all that violence, all that killing, yeah.
Yeah, there's even time, like the Path of the Warrior and the Path of the Seer definitely have the biggest impact upon an Eldar soul. And you even see it in the book when there was that one female Eldar was on the Path of the Artisan, but in her dreams, she was being bombarded by scenes of when she was on the Path of the Warrior, which is not supposed to happen, because the massive Cain is supposed to protect you from the atrocities that you committed.
You don't remember things as well. You don't feel that you just murdered all these people.
Yeah, but because of the craziness that the Path of the Warrior is, she was starting to feel these things again, which terrified her, because an Eldar isn't supposed, like, they can't process this without going crazy. Yeah. So it was like driving her insane to do this. And so that's why the Path of the Warrior is very dangerous. Yeah, exactly. To stay on it for a long time. And
there are, of course, Eldar that get lost on this path, and they're called exarchs. And like they are just crazy. Not really crazy, but you know.
Well, like, they are the perfect warrior embodiment of that aspect. Yeah. But they also have their own individual schools. Yeah. So there are different aspects. Mark listed one Dire Avengers, striking scorpions, howling banshees. There's many different kinds.
See if you can name them all.
I
Let's
can't.
see.
That's as good as I got.
There's hidden.
There's the Reapers.
Okay, getting closer.
Swooping Hawks.
Yeah.
So how many have I done? Swooping Hawks, Reapers, Dire Avengers, Scorpions, Striking Scorpions, Howling Banshees. How many more?
Hidden Death.
4. I think.
No, Avengers we already did. I don't know.
Okay.
What are the other ones?
There's the pilots. What are the pilots called? I forget what they're called. Fuck. Skyweavers.
Oh,
maybe?
okay. Yeah.
I don't know. And then they have their jet bike guys, shining spears.
Okay.
They have shadow specters.
What are the ones that look like death?
Hidden Death.
No,
in
that's
the
a
book.
school.
Oh, okay.
That's a school. That's not an aspect.
Those are Dark Reapers.
Dark Reapers, right? Okay, so there is a big difference even within the path of the warrior. Just like how there's the school of sculpting and school of poet, like the path of the sculptor and path of the poet.
Yeah.
There's the path of the Dire Avenger and the path of the Dark Reaper.
Yeah.
So the path, and the attitude and characters and personalities of those, even on these subpaths, are very different.
Yeah, because each
Like
one is a different aspect of Cain.
Yeah, and so
the
a Dark
aspect
Reaper
of,
is very dark and
like
brooding.
his whole purpose is violence, destruction,
and
death.
And even other warriors
Yeah.
can feel uncomfortable around a Dark Reaper.
Yeah.
And so imagine what that is to someone who's on the path of service to be around a Dark Reaper. Like, they are absolutely terrified of them.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is because anyone who's not on the path of the warrior doesn't comprehend what it is to be on the path of the warrior.
Yeah.
And the path of the warrior is interesting because it's most closely related with a member of the Eldar pantheon. Because it's said that Cain actually has an active involvement of the path of the warrior.
Yeah.
So
even when they summon the avatar of Cain into battle,
it sends everyone into a bloodlust.
Yeah, and they take somebody from the path of the warrior and sacrifice him, and he then becomes the avatar.
Yes, yeah. It's crazy. When they describe the avatar being summoned in the book, it's a wild thing. Like, it takes days, and the whole craft world resonates with the heartbeat of Cain.
They know that the avatar is coming and they're preparing for it, and
it affects everyone on the ship, and that's kind of where you draw the connect. Like, everyone is connected, and but it's a massive foreboding. And
do you think that every Eldar eventually walks the path of the warrior?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I definitely think it's a very big aspect of Eldar, because there always is a need for defenders of the Eldar race, and Cain is such a very he's a very real role.
Like, do you think that if you lived long enough as an Eldar and you haven't taken on
someone's
path
come on,
everybody's like, hey, we did our tour of duty, but look at Gary over there.
Gary,
why are we always hating on Gary?
Well, because Gary's never done it. He's fine. He's like, I'm service now. Oh, now I'm a healer.
I'm going back to the artisan.
Now I'm a sculptor. Now I'm a painter.
Yeah.
Everybody else is
Boo,
war
Gary.
torn and PTSD.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because on the tabletop they have units called Guardians, and even though they're fighting on tabletop, you would think they're the path of the warrior, but they're actually just any Eldar citizen that, if the craft world goes under attack, they call upon the citizens to defend the craft world. And
a conscript.
A militia. Yeah, conscript, sure. Sure.
But they have no path of the warrior training. It's not necessary.
So, having said, would every Eldar go upon the path? Maybe not every Eldar would go on the path of the warrior, but every Eldar is responsible for defending the craft world.
Right, and that makes sense. Yeah, you may not choose it as your path, but
but you
push comes
still,
to shove, you're willing to take up arms and defend the craft world.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be the worst thing ever, I think.
Absolutely. To be forced to don a war mask and
you're
commit
just
violence, even though you're just an artisan or on the path of the healer.
Yeah.
That would devastate you.
Yeah.
And that's why the war mask is 100% necessary. And I don't know if we've ever said what the war mask is.
Not fully. We've thrown it around.
So
but
the war mask is a gift of Cain that he gives to every single one, anyone on the path of the warrior, which is they describe it as a red haze that comes over them, where they fully assume the identity of the aspect they're in. They fully become the dire avenger. They fully become the striking scorpion, and their entire focus is around this, and it really just heightens everything that they are while diminishing all their other aspects of themselves.
Yeah.
So it's really just
Their sense of morals, and
Absolutely.
compassion, and
Yeah.
right. But the interesting thing about this war mask is it's very ritualistic to put it on.
it's not an actual physical thing.
No, it's a
mental
psychic
state.
It's like a psychic block.
That is worth noting for sure.
Because if people are picturing putting on some sort of actual mask,
Like an
that's
Eldar
not-
Harlequin mask or something, it's not.
No,
not
That's
like
why their
that.
helmets are so big. Right?
But yeah, this mask is, you are slowly psychically donning it as you prepare yourself for battle. You're saying rituals and chants. You're inviting Cain to come protect you, and by the end of it, by the time you're fully armored and stuff, like, you are supposed to be in your war mask.
Yeah.
And then you are ready to kill,
Yeah.
which is
For
crazy.
fun and country.
And then you take it off at the end,
Right.
And you're kind of a normal person.
You are, and you don't fully have an understanding of the horrors that you've seen and that
You
you've
set
committed.
aside those
even.
memories
Yes.
and some of those things.
You
yeah.
give, I think it's described as you give those to Cain, and Cain is actually, takes those away from you as a gift, because if you were to keep them, you would go crazy. So it's also like, it's described as anytime you're feeling anger and violence, like, that's supposed to be Cain giving those to you in order for you to join him. It's an interesting, it's an interesting give and take, and that's also just as part of their mythology, right? That they believe that this comes from Cain.
Yeah. So that's kind of the path of the warrior.
Man,
Like,
we could go on about the path of the warrior for a long time.
yeah, like, so originally when I was thinking about this episode, like, I'm like, oh yeah, we'll fit the path of the warrior in here, like all the different aspects and stuff, but
there's no way.
there's no way.
No, the different aspects, and then the different schools within the aspects.
Yeah, like, there's so much
Tactics,
there.
armor.
But I think the next time we hit up an Eldar episode that isn't Dark Eldar would probably be either the aspect of the warrior, or the path of the warrior, or the path of the seer.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Or we do a named character. There's lots of different options that we have
maybe the
available.
named character, but we're gonna get to it sooner than later, because like, the aspect warriors are so cool.
Oh,
And like all their like high exarchs or whatever they call them, like
Phoenix Lords.
Phoenix Lords.
Yeah, so badass.
Like, there's a lot of cool stuff there, but that's kind of all we have.
Yeah, that kind of describes the paths and what their purpose is.
Yeah.
And
The interesting thing that I was thinking about when we were reading all this just today was, so we know Slaanesh is the god of excess, yet to go on the Eldar path, you basically fall to that excess of one path. You don't go anywhere else. You fully commit yourself to one thing. And what's more Slaaneshy than that?
I know it's
very
really
odd.
counterintuitive,
Right?
The fact that you can be lost upon the path and still save your soul.
So, and maybe that's why Slaanesh doesn't eat the... So we know that the Slaanesh eats the Dark Eldar soul, but the Eldar soul he doesn't consistently eat, because they're so focused in the excess of one thing, they're already providing Slaanesh food.
I wonder if it's more
That's a very real possibility.
that Eldar are just, they're like all in for everything.
Yeah.
Like, left to themselves, they would just be all in every direction.
Yeah.
And so the path just makes it so they're all in a set direction.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that they're more
But that doesn't.
all in.
But that does not mean it's not
just
gift to
limited.
Slaanesh, because the pursuit of perfection in anything, any one thing,
That is
provides Slaanesh with
That's
power.
like the principal Slaanesh thing.
Exactly. So the ability to be the best painter or the best sculptor is very Slaanesh driven.
Yeah, it's a very weird thing.
But it is, like, are all Eldar really driven to be the best in their area?
No, it's about mastering that aspect of themselves, which doesn't
it's the
necessarily mean the best.
satisfaction that they get from doing something
Yeah.
that is valuable in whatever the value
And
is defined
yet,
as,
another
right?
aspect of Slaanesh is feeling pleasure in what you're doing.
Sure, but in that sense, Slaanesh is in too many things because, like,
Oh, sure.
you know what
Well,
I'm saying?
sure.
Like,
That's the whole purpose of the Chaos Gods. Anytime you commit a violent act or
Right.
thought,
Or
that
you-
gives power to corn.
you see a butterfly and you appreciate it, and that
Slaanesh.
feeds Slaanesh.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Absolutely. So, but the whole thing is that they want to give as little as possible to Slaanesh because that is their mortal enemy.
right.
But it's crazy to me. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Well, I think, and that's how I rationalize it, that's why the Dark Eldar are constantly being fed upon, where the Eldar are not, because the Eldar are providing already so much excess, and they're already so focused, which is a
In
Slaanesh
this
thing,
singular pursuit.
that Slaanesh doesn't have to constantly be eating their soul, and only when the Eldar die will Slaanesh eat their soul.
Here's I kind of agree with it. I agree with it in a different way, though. So in
Sure.
the Path of Damnation, they say that the pain and agony of these tortured beings provides a psychoactive barrier
Yeah.
around the Dark Eldar.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this does.
Yeah.
So you are, yeah.
It might do that as
I
well,
do agree
yeah.
with you in the fact that what they're doing is enough to feed Slaanesh, but I don't know if that's the case because I don't think Slaanesh will ever feel like it's enough. I more just think that the focus and discipline that they're giving to themselves provides a psychic barrier
Yeah.
to themselves, and Slaanesh is just unable to.
That's a way less grim, dark way to look at things.
It's the Eldar, you know. Like I like the grimdark. I'm all for it.
The only thing to me with the Eldar is it just seems like because they're willing to call whatever you're doing a path.
Yeah.
I disagree with that.
Even if people aren't following a path, they just label them as the
Path
path.
of Damnation,
Right? Or the path, what's the other one where they wander
Outcast.
away? Yeah, the path of the outcast. So, like, for them just to say, like, oh no, because you're path of the outcast. I hate this path system. I think it's dumb, and so I'm not going to live according to it. Okay, you're just on the path of the outcast. Like, anything you do, they're just going to say you're on a path.
Yeah.
But are you really... How can you be on a path without trying to be on a path? Because it requires some focus. Like all these other ones,
I see what you're saying.
there's something you have to be doing to be on that path. It's like a commitment that you're making to limit yourself. So if you're saying that you're just not doing those, they can put a label on you and say like, oh, so then it's like, are they really just deluding themselves? Like, is this path system actually working for them? Or is it just like a mental state where they think it's working? Like, does it change anything to Slaanesh, whether they're doing this or not?
Yeah.
Like,
That's
are
a
they
good
seeing a
I guess
benefit
because
to it?
like
Because you can't just be an outcast and like unless those
that's
people
valid.
are like being fed on or something like terrible is happening to them, to say that they're just like you're just walking a different path. And Dark Elder, you're walking a path. Like everybody walks a path.
Are they fooling their society, like
it
into
doesn't seem
believing
like-
that this actually makes a difference?
Because whether you're trying to walk a path or you're not trying to walk a path, what's the difference?
Yeah.
What difference is it making?
And the
Yeah.
reality is, in the end of it, like it's not the path that saves you from Slaanesh; it's your spirit stone.
yeah.
That's what truly, in the end, saves your soul from Slaanesh, is the fact that your soul is trapped in the stone as opposed to goes to the warp.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's an interesting thought of does the path even do anything?
Because there are certain paths that
brain.
are certainly like higher ranking than other paths too, right?
Yeah.
Like you're saying, the path of the seer. Like, sure, yeah, we need specific people who have specific giftings and abilities to do that. And the path of the warrior, like that makes sense
We
too.
need
You s-
defenders.
and you see
Yeah.
a benefit from it, right?
Yep.
Like the battle mask and all of that stuff. So these other ones, though, it's like, oh yeah, no, just go ahead and be an artist.
Be an artist.
It's
Go
saving-
serve.
it's
That's something a
saving
robot
you.
would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's saving you from Slaanesh. Oh,
Yeah.
it's really making a difference.
Do you think maybe, like, I know when they say the path, they say it came out of their desire to save themselves of Slaanesh, but maybe instead of that, they're just trying to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Well, maybe that's the other
Sure.
case. Yeah.
Because the structure definitely does help them if their goal is to not make another god.
Yeah. And maybe that's what it ultimately is.
Instead of offering, like, being a protection against Slaanesh,
In the present, it's
Yes.
looking towards the future.
exactly,
Yes.
and trying to actively not create another god while still creating another god.
No, but that god's good. He's just the god of death. It's
god
fine.
of death.
And the other thing that we haven't really touched on is the Exodites, who don't follow a path.
But
Yeah.
still
And yet-
have spirit stones.
Right. And so, like, what is the benefit of the path that the Exodites, like, where can you look at the Eldar and say, like, oh, we have a better way than the Exodite way?
Yeah.
Because you're not seeing, I don't see the negative impact on the Exodites.
Because there isn't. They already have
so
a
their
discipline.
culture already had enough of that when they left, and
Exactly.
they established
Yes.
that in them.
They don't need a specific path because they already feel
They found another solution.
Because the same
Exactly.
people who came up with the path are the same people that caused the birth of Slanesh.
Yeah.
To begin
Right.
with.
So it's the
different
path is just a
cultures.
social structure that's to keep them from falling into
I think that's a better
chaos,
way.
like excess.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a better way to put it. And
Sure.
by default, them not falling to excess and creating another god also does weaken Slanesh.
Sure.
Just because the Eldar have the highest impact upon the Immaterium.
Yeah.
And so if they can limit what they do give to the Imperium, then it will limit Slanesh's power. If they can choose not to give themselves to excess and perfection, while maybe not being the protection they claim it is, it definitely doesn't give as much power to Slanesh as it could. But it still has to give Slanesh something.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
you done that? Let's go for listener questions.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
we've got a couple questions here. Let's start at the very top. Owen says, lots on the path of the Outcast, please. Love me some LA talk. Well, you can wait for our LA talk episode, Owen.
For you, Eric, what is Alatok?
It's a craft world.
Ah, good man. You're fucking on it.
Oh, thank God. That was the only thing I looked up before this. Mark, who's Uthway?
Also Craft World. I hope. Is that what we're doing?
Uthway?
Uthway?
Yeah.
UTHEW.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's...
Woody asks...
Their color scheme is black. Maybe.
Racist. Woody asks, how do their ships fly? Do they actually shoot ninja stars? So how their ships fly?
Solar sails.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like actual...
Well,
they harness like...
Like that's how their craft worlds work. But I don't know if that's necessarily how their like fighter ships work.
I guess that...
Because that seems way
so
too slow.
I guess in space, there's no such thing as aerodynamics. So their spaceships are built completely differently. I'm not a space scientist.
There's still space dust that provides resistance.
I don't want to get into
Sure,
this.
yeah.
How does gravity work? How
Nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
How does the sun work?
Fuck.
No
Here
one
we
knows.
go. Here we go.
You can-
but
but yes,
the
there
main
is a lack
the main
of that.
idea is
Propulsion,
yeah. Lift, thrust,
mass,
speed.
energy. Eldar, magic. What more do you need to know, Woody? That's everything you need to get your answer. And the other one is, do they actually shoot ninja stars?
Oh yeah, shuriken catapults are
Shuriken
shurikens.
catapults.
They they shoot shurikens.
It's really weird.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Are they? But they are like their edge though, isn't it? Like a monomolecular thing? Like, aren't they ridiculously sharp and they just like shred through things?
Oh yeah, sure. Everything's monomolecular. You know,
yeah.
like,
Of course.
you know, it has to be. But yes, they actually shoot shurikens, ninja stars.
Elliot asks, can an Eldar go from being on the path of the Farseer, so specifically the Farseer, to one of the warrior paths, or once you are on that path, you are there for life?
I think if you're on the path of the Farseer, you see the benefit that comes from you being on that path, and it's more beneficial to the Eldar for you to stay on that path.
So you think
than
it's-
to go to another path? I think that you'd see it. You'd understand.
You think it's a conscious decision? Because a Farseer is one who is lost upon the path.
It seems like your final path. Yeah, it
But-
seems like once you get there,
There's got to be a different way, because if you're lost upon the path, you might never have made the choice to become lost upon the path. It might have been something that happened to you, and now you are unable to leave that path. Because if it's a choice, it means you can unmake that choice.
well, I think that it's a choice, but because you see the possibilities that others can't, and you see the benefit that you're having, it's kind of like, well, what choice do I really have? Because I am the one who's seeing into the future with these other Farseers. But like, what you have to offer is so great and valuable to your people how could you choose to walk away from that? Because if you were to go into battle and you're, like you're saying, shooting lightning bolts, like you see that that's just not as valuable. That what you can do as a farseer is far greater than any other path that you have to walk. Because the path system is a sham, and you're finally doing something that is actually meaningful and valuable. And so how could you ever walk away from that?
But you still...
That's what it means to be lost on that path.
I do not agree with that sentiment, is that just because you see the value, it means you could leave. I truly believe that an aspect
But
of...
then you see what happens when you leave, and like, that's a worse fate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about being lost on the path of the artisan? You can still be lost, but the path of the artisan offers no real benefit.
But the difference is the path of the artisan doesn't foresee into the future.
But
he doesn't.
But you can still be lost. And if you were
But
then if that person is like, man, there's no greater benefit for me to move paths because I'm offering such a good benefit. That's what you're saying. You're saying the farseer sees so much good in what he's doing, he sees no cause to move. But the path of the artisan does not offer anything towards the progression of Eldar society. But that's what I'm saying.
So there's still excess, and there's still because being lost on a path is a big thing.
So how would
that's
you
possible?
How
but
could you choose to be lost on the path of the artisan? Give me your rationalization for that.
No, I think farseer is the only one where it's different. That's what I'm trying to say. I think on a farseer, sure, are there farseers who are just lost and are like, I can't find my way back if I wanted to? Sure. But I think there's this other component when you can see the future and you see the benefit that you have.
That's not necessarily
how could you
true.
walk away
The
from
future is one of the most dangerous things to see, and they even say that in the book, is that if you go down this path, you will get lost. Because the more time you spend on it, the more time you're devoted to it, the more time that it rules every aspect of your life. And that was one of the dangers you saw in the book.
And then stop seeing the future.
But it's not about, I don't think it's about you seeing a benefit that it offers. If anything, you're trapped because you have to make sure the best thing happens. But that's not you saying like, I'm making a benefit to society. It's your own desire to have the best output, not because you're doing it as a sacrifice to anyone else, but because you have no other choice but to try and be the best outcome possible, because you are too scared of the destruction and death that's going to come if you don't do something. And because to me what it sounds like is you're saying is they're not actually trapped. Because if you have to make the decision every single day...
it is a trap. But I'm just saying it's...
But you have to make the decision every single day of be like, I'm still going to be a farseer. Whereas my view of it is that no, like once you're in and you have to go forward.
I think it's a little bit of that Shutter Island kind of thing. It's like you may not...
Don't bring one of the best movies ever into this. You already
mentioned it. That's why I went back
I didn't like that movie.
I didn't like that movie because they drowned the children and it was...
Well, that's horrific, but...
I've never seen it. Now I'm kind of interested.
Don't have children that are young and then watch it.
You didn't watch it with your kids, did you?
No, I didn't watch it with my kids, but I had young kids. And the wife, anyways.
Don't ruin it for Mark.
It's traumatizing.
But did she actually, though?
Wait.
Anyways, what I'm saying is you're trapped either way, but you may not think that you're trapped. Whereas that's probably true on any path where you're trapped, is you may not actually say like, boy, I'd love to get out of here if only I could find the exit, but I can't. I guess I'm trapped here forever. As much as the trap is in your own mind where you're saying like, I can never leave because I have to stay here because what I'm doing is so valuable. But even if you wanted to leave,
maybe you believe that you are such a pure being that you would have the ability to leave. But for me, like as someone who has an extremely addictive personality, like it wouldn't matter what path to me, like there would be such a danger for me of a desire to completely envelop everything that I am by this path that I'm on.
Sure.
And so for me, like I fully understand that if I went too far, I would be incapable of turning back. I couldn't do it. I believe that if you're on...
it's already happened.
I believe that if you're on the...
Warhammer is your path.
No, it's not. It's Mark's path.
What? No, I have other things I do that are more prevalent.
What's that, Mark?
Work, unfortunately.
Not by choice. Oh my gosh, he's trapped upon the path of work.
I am.
So I don't believe that once you become a farseer, you can ever leave that path. Peter?
No, I agree. The prerequisite is that you're lost on the path.
Yes, in order to be a farseer. But if you meant to say, Elliot, if you meant to say on the path of the seer, then absolutely you could leave the path of the seer.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're just a spirit seer or a warlock,
okay.
of course you can say like, I have mastered my psychic ability. I'm no longer a danger or a harm to anyone. I feel a desire to move to a different path. Yes.
No longer want to hang out with these dead ghosts all the time.
For real, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm done. I'm ready
Yeah.
for something else. And then another question he has is, what if they are on a different path but they develop psychic powers? Will they abandon it to join the Farseer one? Absolutely.
Everybody has psychic powers, right?
Yeah.
Of course, yes. Every single Eldar is psychic in some capacity.
But yeah, so if that gift that you have already is becoming more and more and more, that is an indication you're being pulled
Of course.
to
Sure.
a different path.
But it doesn't mean that you have to go do that path. Right now,
Right. But it's
Like-
going to start pulling.
It will definitely pull.
starts
For
to
sure.
tug
Absolutely.
in that
I
direction.
disagree.
you can be tugged in two directions at once, and maybe the path of the Artisan is still pulling you more.
I disagree to the point of where your powers become dangerous.
Well,
If
that's the only
Yes,
thing.
but that's what I'm saying.
yes.
That's the point, is that if it develops to the point of where it's
Sure.
dangerous, because I think any Eldar can develop their psychic powers to the point of where they're powerful.
Yeah,
But
sure.
to those that are, it's going to happen to, like in the book, the Farseer contacts this girl while she's on the path of the Artisan and says like, it's time for you to join the path of the seer.
Yeah.
Even though she was like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, I have foreseen that you will eventually lose control if we don't get you in
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah.
she is pulled into
Yeah.
the path
Well,
of the
yeah,
seer.
there definitely is that line. We don't know
Yes.
exactly where it is.
Of course, we don't, because we're not Eldar, but there is an example.
There is a line.
Yeah. You have, and yeah, your powers could be meaningless or nothing, and of
Yeah.
course, like you can feel the tug of two different
Yeah.
things. But it's ultimately, as long as you're not a danger, it's your choice.
I'd say that would be the line.
Yeah, the only two ones that you see like you are forced upon that is the warrior and the seer. Because if you become dangerous in your rage and your anger and you are unable to control it, you will be forced to go down that path, or else you'll kill yourself.
Or
Because,
others.
like
or,
a sensory overload happens where you're unable to control it and you will just die.
sure.
So it's kind of a force and kind of a necessity.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Drew says, what do you guys think about the fact that the Phoenix Lords basically eat the collected souls of the nearest Exarch if the Phoenix Lord should be killed in battle? I can almost get behind the whole soul transfer thing from one Exarch to another since it's halfway voluntary, but the Phoenix Lord thing is basically I'll take your body, get the fuck out.
Yeah. It's 40K.
Oh, Phoenix
Dark.
Lords, like, I don't know if you've read, oh man, like that part in Path of the Eldar is so cool. Like, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I told you about it as soon as I read it, like how the Phoenix Lord's soul was, like in his armor, there was no body.
Yeah.
It was just like a galaxy and darkness, and there were just like bright lights, and all those lights were other Exarchs and Phoenix Lords that had come before this guy that were being absorbed. So it's like a Wraith Lord
Yeah.
with made up of multiple souls that embodies everything that the striking scorpions ever were.
Yeah, and like takes over.
Yeah.
Effectively.
No, I love it.
Which
Like,
is very different from the Exarch. So an
Yeah.
Exarch, their armor has the spirit stones of previous Exarchs in it, and you gain their knowledge.
Yeah.
And they help you in battle, and they
But they're
show
not
you what it is.
controlling you.
Of course, you draw upon them,
yeah.
right? When you become an Exarch, you agree to this, like, yes, I want to be a part of your circle, right?
But it changes you.
It does, of course, because anything would like that would change you. But a Phoenix Lord, at least in this case that he's talking about, it consumed the Exarch. So the Phoenix Lord was wounded. The blackness was like leaking out of his armor because there's no body underneath it, and the blackness went into the Exarch at the time, consumed him, and then that Exarch now became the Phoenix Lord, and his identity was lost in the Phoenix Lord.
Wild.
So cool.
Yeah. What did he have a question? What was his question?
He's like, what do you guys think about it?
oh, okay, then it's cool.
Amazing. It's awesome.
Yes.
I have nothing but good things to say about that.
Yeah.
That is a very grimdark 40K theme.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah, within the Eldar though, it is a little strange. Or
I bet most
off-putting,
people don't know about
It-
that.
it's a little.
Because Phoenix Lords are myth.
It's pretty different.
And they're a legend.
Yeah.
Like, you might know about the Phoenix Lord, but you've never met the Phoenix Lord.
Yeah.
Because there's one of them.
Yeah.
right? There's one Phoenix Lord striking Scorpion in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Is really cool.
Very, very
in the book,
very cool.
In the book, I think there was 2 Phoenix Lords at that one battle, which is like phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was just such an important battle that like Eldar across the galaxy were like drawn to it.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Huh.
Here's another question. Jeez. What do you guys think about the constant harping in the codices and stuff that using Wraith Guard, Lords, Knights, Flyers, ships is evil necromancy when the entire culture is about communing with the spirits of the ancestors? If I were dead and someone's coming to wreck up my not a computer my spirit is in, I think I'd be pretty okay with getting put into a giant organic mecha suit to go smash face. Also, I mean, come on. Our demigods eat our military lieutenants for saving throws. We sacrifice the best of our commanders to summon our avatar of war, but oh my god, you let Joe the Barber rest in peace, you monster. Don't make Joe defend his family from beyond the grave. There actually is a line that spirit seers have to walk between guiding these souls and necromancy, because they manipulate souls and they put them into these things, and they say that is a very real temptation of spirit seers to overdo it and to delve into necromancy. So I think it's more of a respect thing. Like, I don't believe that the souls in the Infinity Circuit would ever, like, he would never pull a soul that didn't want to be pulled.
Sure.
Because every spirit within the Infinity Circuit senses the danger that the craft world is in and wants to help. Like, especially the previous heroes and generals, like, they desire, I mean, when a craft world is attacked, like, the craft world itself will rearrange itself to mess up the attackers.
Yeah.
Like, so you already know that there's a desire for the craft world to defend itself. And so, like, I don't think he's ever going to pull someone who did not have a desire to see the defense of the craft world.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the difference between necromancy and spirit guiding. And necromancy is ownership and control.
It's all about consent.
It's all about consent. Yeah.
You just need like a DNR.
Jeez.
Like, do not bring me back.
Do not necessitate.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of how I feel
Sure.
about it. It has to be a very, like,
Well, yeah, if they're
understandable.
able, but like, yeah, it's to what extent can they actually communicate with the individuals within there?
Depending on your personality,
their...
depending on your personality, some have a very stronger presence in the Infinity Circuit than others.
Can you read the first little section again?
Yeah.
Just one.
What
do you think?
What do you think about the constant harping in the codices and stuff that using all those things is evil necromancy?
Oh, okay. So, so evil necromancy implies that you're giving something like a body. So it's one thing to commune with spirits, right? But it's another thing to give it like physical form. Because like that to me is why it's evil. You're bringing something that is dead and you're giving it physical form.
And you're controlling it.
To some degree, yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like if you're talking to your dead grandpa, like it that's the line of necromancy, right? Like when you start to give something an actual physical form.
Yeah, I don't think any of these guys are being forced.
And that's the other thing. Like, yeah, I don't think they are either. But I can see how some Eldar would be very opposed to it and not opposed to just communing. Because you're taking something dead, something that has reached the end of its life, reached the end of its path, and now you're bringing it back into reality. Like it's very different than just communing with a spirit. So
yeah, you could see like the more conservative Eldar being against that, and other Eldar like pushing for we need to do this more often, and this is important.
But ultimately, like if I was an Eldar, I would be okay with it. Like you guys said, like why would the spirit not be okay with helping his family defend the craft?
Isn't there some risk involved though?
Yeah.
Well, the risk is if the soul stone gets destroyed,
right?
That spirit is now gone. So.
Yeah, it goes to the warp and Slanesh eats it.
Yeah.
So there is that risk, but would you take that risk to save the thousands of souls in the Infinity Circuit?
Yeah.
Like, would you risk yourself for the benefit of everyone else?
And that's a personal thing. Like some people don't think the end justifies the means.
Of course.
So it's all personal.
Yeah, and each soul is also different. Some like held onto their anger and their rage when they go into the Infinity Circuit, and those want nothing more than to continue destroying like the enemies of the Eldar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't think it's evil necromancy what they're doing, but there's definitely other people would see it.
I
say
can
that.
easily see why people
course.
think that.
Yeah.
Sure. Some Eldar would consider.
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Vincent asks, what do they smell like? He's talking about Wraithguard or souls. I don't know. But it's
What does a soul
smell
smell
like.
like?
And no, surprisingly, cheese is not the right answer, except on tabletop. So I think he means Wraithguard and Wraithlords, like, because they're cheese to bring. Right?
It's a joke.
I'm assuming they smell like fresh linen.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll leave you with that. Fresh linen.
Vincent, what do you think they smell like? That's the real question.
Cheese, clearly. He thinks they smell
No,
like
he says
cheese.
they don't smell like cheese.
Oh, they don't smell like cheese. Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
I think it'd be a high tech, a hot, oily kind of sci-fi kind of smell for sure.
Yes, I can smell it now.
Yeah. That's
Matt asks, what aspect warrior would you want to be and why? Mine would be Howling Banshees, cause dem titties dough.
Makes sense.
Yeah. For me, it's between the Reapers and the Striking Scorpions. Probably only because in the path of the Eldar, they go through the Striking Scorpions.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's the one I know all about. And that's the one I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm sure if I read other books from other aspects,
Yeah.
I would be able to make a more unbiased decision. But the Striking Scorpions is just so cool. So that's what I would do.
I personally would be like, if I didn't have a choice, it would be Dire Avengers. Like that fits.
It's
me.
just the most common.
It just fits me too. Like
The noble aspect.
Noble. Like I don't just want to inflict violence for the sake of violence, or like there's that noble aspect that fits me a little more than the Dark Reapers, where it's just fucking destruction.
And death.
Yeah, But if I could pick, then it would probably be the Fire Dragon guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Holding the Meltas and the Flamers.
Yeah, just who doesn't like fire, ultimately.
Pure, man.
Like that's
That's a good one.
yeah.
Peter.
well, I get to choose my own path, and so
Well, you choose your own aspect.
I'm a Farseer, and I'm crystallizing.
That's
in
not
the
it-
garden.
the question was
no,
what
but I got
path?
to choose.
He gets to choose, yeah.
It's
No.
I'm an Eldar.
Oh, by
and
the
no
way,
one can
Peter, you
tell
have
me
no psychic
what to
ability.
do.
Oh, that sucks.
Well, then I'm a bone singer because my grades weren't good enough.
to be a
be a
farseer. Yeah, so now you're singing the la 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 la
That's right.
la la. Wow, you're lame.
Hey, I get to choose. I'm Eldar.
Jordan, do you have an aspect you would be? No.
Of
Of the path of the warrior.
the path.
We didn't even talk about aspects,
Yeah.
so don't worry about it. And then Matt also says, on a side note, are the Banshees the only aspect that are gender specific? Or are there female striking scorpions, warp spiders, blah, blah, yada, yada?
So that's actually a very high misconception. There actually are male howling banshees, but they are super rare. But they have happened. So
Yeah,
Yes.
like on all the models, you'll see female
Yeah,
ones. But if you
because-
were to model your own howling banshee as a male, sure.
it actually exists in the lore that there are male. It's not
Yeah.
all females.
Yeah, it's not like a
but-
Sisters of Battle type thing
No,
where
no,
only
or
girls.
Sisters of Silence or
Yeah.
something like that, or Space Marines. But it's just the vast, like 99% of them are female.
And then within any other aspect, it's going to be a 50-50 mix.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be whatever, yeah.
I'd
like-
say it's 50-50.
Yeah, it's whatever they choose to be because there's
Yeah.
no preconception about the other ones.
Yeah.
Mike asks, is the only way to defeat chaos, if that's even possible, for the Imperium and Eldar to join forces? And considering recent events, do you think this will ever happen on a larger scale?
No, you can't defeat chaos.
Nope.
We've covered this many, many times. Like chaos,
Oh,
as long as
Mike. Oh, Mike.
clearly he's a new listener.
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, no, you can't defeat chaos. Like you do any type of emotion, you're contributing to chaos. Like chaos and the warp are they're two different things, but very similar. Like you can't beat the warp. The warp isn't necessarily evil.
The only way to defeat chaos is to destroy all life and never
Yeah.
have life resurface in the galaxy.
Yeah,
It's the only way. And eventually they'll die out.
sure.
And the best plan for the Eldar,
Yes.
as already established,
We've
is
established
to leave and take your craft worlds and get away from everybody else and do a population boom and then come
Yeah.
back and own.
Peter 2020. We've
my
we've had
Make the
that.
Eldar great again.
Yeah, we've had that.
Guys, just Take my calls. Return my calls. Listen.
And the second portion of his question was, do you think it's even possible for the Eldar and Imperium to make a coalition on a large scale?
No.
No.
Obviously, there's how would that benefit Games Workshop? It wouldn't. Yeah. But ultimately, like, we're too different. Like, even just in this conversation, we're like, how would that even work? Like, we're just too different to fully integrate ourselves. Like,
their values
it
are
would,
too
it
different.
would go against everything that like humanity stands for in their divine right to rule the galaxy.
Yeah.
And the Eldar do believe that they are above everyone else. Like, so it's just too opposite.
Yeah.
Woody asks again, do they have a special faction like the Death Watch? Depends on if you put the Harlequins up there as a special faction.
Sure, that could be a special faction.
Yeah.
But
like, do the Harlequins see themselves that way?
Yeah.
Like, how Eldar do the Harlequins really see themselves as being?
Maybe Eldar Rangers, because while they're not actually on the path of the warrior, they do take a very warrior role. So, like, they have a combination, and, like, the Death Watch are known for their versatility, where the Eldar Rangers, they can feel all the emotions. They don't need a commander, path of the commander, to lead them. They can do it themselves. So maybe, but, like, it's a weird comparison, you know?
Yeah.
It's not really a direct...
I don't think there is either.
No, but if I was to say something had to be, I'd say, like, the Rangers, because
right.
they feel the whole spectrum of emotions. Like, each one will be drastically different, where if you talk to anyone from the path of the warrior, they're all going to be pretty similar.
Yeah, depending on their aspect.
Yeah.
That raises a question of my own, though.
Yeah.
What path is the Harlequin on?
Outcast.
Yeah, because there's not really... They don't... At least the Harlequins don't see themselves as having a
Right.
path, because they're just with Segarak, and whatever he says is their path. They found their own way, like the Exodites, to have their own culture, to protect themselves.
I wonder if the Eldar
things
say that they're
differently.
on, like, the path of the...
Outcast.
Yeah?
Why would it not
they're
be?
like Exodites, though. Like, unless...
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like,
do Eldar consider Exodites to be on the path of the Outcast?
Yes.
So then anybody who's not following the path system basically is either on the path of the Outcast or the path of damnation.
Yeah. Yeah. But
that's how they're lumping them.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean that
exactly.
they're... Because the path system is a sham.
Yeah. The Harlequins aren't like, we're on the path of the Outcast. That's definitely not the case. Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
They're like, we don't need your path system. It's garbage.
The very last question asked by Travis is, I've always wondered about the striking scorpions and how they are related to the Dark Elder Incubus. I've only seen hints of it in Codex, but it is never fully explained. So what do you think about that?
Oh, man, I wasn't listening. To be
The
completely
relations,
honest.
the relationship between striking scorpions
Yeah.
and the Incubus. Do you think there is any relationship?
I don't think I would have to really search, but for the Incubus, they are like dedicated warriors for the Dark Eldar, where anyone can be a warrior, but they're like known to be like they're on the path of the warrior within the Dark Eldar. So I don't know if they'd be any more in common with them as opposed to any other path of the warrior. Like, are they more in common with the striking scorpions or the howling banshees? Like, I honestly don't have an answer, and I couldn't really find why there would be a similarity between them.
What is an incubus? Like, do they use specific war gear?
They use usually like two-handed weapons, I believe, like two-handed like these like swords almost like.
So an incubus is an elite.
Yeah, and like they're trained professional soldiers. Like, that is what they do. Where like a Kabbalite warrior, like, he just goes on raids when he needs to. That's not his profession. So that's the comparison, is like the Incubus are basically on the path of the warrior, and then they're both green, the Incubus and the striking scorpions.
Oh my gosh, these guys are dark.
They're pretty crazy.
They have to, in order to become a full incubus, they have to kill an exarch. Or no, sorry, not an exarch, an aspect warrior in single combat, and then shatter their soul stone and rebuild it into a psychic torture device.
Crazy.
Terrible.
But
they like, you could say that the incubus is like an aspect within themselves. Like, of the path of the warrior, they are their own aspect.
Sure.
Like, they have their own shrines.
Sure.
They do their own special training. They still like offer worship, like sacrifices
They
to
have
Cain.
their own armor and war gear and stuff.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't say
like,
they're related specifically to striking scorpions.
No, and tell us why you think that, if you do think that, because I'm not sure, to be honest.
And I've never read an Eldar Codex, so maybe I should.
Yeah, to me, the big comparison is just they're both very militant.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good.
I'm done there. Peter?
Nope.
Well, that kind of wraps up our Path of the Eldar episode.
We did it.
We did it.
Another one
It's a
done.
good one. High five, guys. Ew. Don't lick me anymore, Mark. Weirdo. Peter, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's good.
As always.
Happy to be here.
That was a very deep intellectual conversation you brought to us.
Oh, just me arguing with Eric?
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it always goes, I guess.
I know. Well, so, me and Eric, we met a new person on Thursday, and it was one of Christian's friends. And he walks in just when me and Eric are going fucking deep in an argument, like so
I'm yelling
deep. Like,
and I'm so into this that this guy walks in, and I'm a polite person.
they're like, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you. This is Eric. This is Mike." Fuck you, Eric. Like, just
It was bad.
deep into it.
It was bad. It was about Pathfinder.
I think you need the path of the warrior to deal with some of this anger.
Probably.
Yeah. And what path should we send Mark on? What path is Mark
Scholar.
need?
No, you have no
You won't
affinity to
find,
that.
yeah, you won't find satisfaction there.
I'm trying to improve myself. I don't need to.
I just don't think you're self-driven enough for that.
I would love to see Mark on the path of the healer.
Okay.
So
that's true. He was the one challenging you to have compassion.
Absolutely.
Which you had none of.
Yeah. If there's anyone here who can be empathetic and understanding and desires for personal growth and
Yes.
restoration,
That's true. I
it's
see
Mark.
It. I see it. And he can push the surgery button.
Absolutely. And feels great satisfaction
Yeah,
in
that was a
doing
good
so.
day's work.
Yes. What path is
for
Jordan? Yes.
If we're going to send him on a path.
Damnation, of course. Of course. Look at the way he is. He wears glasses. He doesn't need glasses.
No.
What's more? What will send you
It's
to hell?
damning. It's
yeah.
damning to wear those glasses, Jordan. How dare you?
Doesn't conform to society.
Whatever you say. Actually, I was thinking the path of the what was it? The Outcast.
Yeah.
That also fits you very much.
Most people, I think, would okay, a lot of people I think would aspire to be like, I'm going to be on this path. And then as soon as they realize how restrictive a single path is, they'll be like, oh my God, no, send me on the path of the outcast.
Yeah.
Because as a human, we want to, it's difficult for us to like fully give up an aspect of ourself to focus on something else.
I mean, but if you're going to the path of the outcast, you're giving up a lot. Like you're leaving the craft world.
No, but you're with other outcasts. You still have a society within it.
Yeah, I don't. Well, how much? Like
They have
those
a
are
decent-
the
like, they-
long-term travelers, right?
Yeah,
Like,
but
how much,
they go in groups.
Don't point at me.
That wasn't a point.
Like-
It was a grab.
like a whole group of pirates. You're
Yeah.
saying working together.
Yeah, they're not solos at all. They're just an outcast from the regular society.
Sure.
And Peter, what would you go on?
Oh, clearly command. Of course.
Okay.
I would follow Peter.
Assuming that he could survive Path of the Warrior. What aspect would you choose again? What was it?
No, I wanted to be a seer, and
But you would have to do Path of the Warrior in order to do command.
That's true. Okay, I found a problem with it.
Whole system's wrecked.
It's a sham. It's a sham. That's it.
Just let me be on command.
leaving to join the Harlequins.
That okay. All right.
Yeah, if he was an elder, that's
Yeah.
definitely
He wouldn't be chosen though. That's the funny thing.
He would be chosen. Have you met his barbarian character? fucking mint.
That's pretty good.
All right.
Well, thanks guys for listening. That's been our episode on the Path of the Eldar. Hopefully you learned something that you didn't know
Choose
before.
your own path. Let them know on Facebook. What
Yeah.
path are you on?
Yeah, let us know what path you are. Let us know what path you think we should go on based on what you know of us. It's always fun to have those kind of discussions.
Send us your listener lore.
Yes, always. If you want to send it in a sound clip, please do so, but send it to us in email form so we can download it
Yeah, and not.
and don't have to play it off of a phone into
Yeah.
a mic.
Yeah, I'm gonna get in trouble for that by the sensitive ear folk.
Oh,
over
of
there.
course you are. Of course you
But yeah,
are.
send us your listener lore. We're gonna keep doing them. Check us out on Patreon. Blah blah blah. You guys know the drill.
Blah,
so.
blah, blah. Redbubble. You can
Sure,
buy our
fuck
merchandise if you want it.
Or don't. Whatever.
Wow, no, do it. Rep our shit,
You know,
yo.
go on iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review.
Wow. It's like you don't even care about this podcast anymore. Ever since your mom told you that your brother was better at it than you are. It's been on a downward spiral.
Deeply hurt. Deeply hurt.
All right, guys. See you later.
All right, cool, man. See you guys.
Peace.